what's going on, everybody? How's it hanging? How's it happening? You guys know who it is. This is Kevin from the Chord Progression Podcast. Brought to you in the City Rocks, where rock and metal thrive. Happy Thursday, everybody. It is April 15th here in the United States. It is tax day. I'm sorry I had to remind you of that. But while you're probably, scrambling to fill out your taxes last minute or whatever the heck else you're doing, this is going to be a fun episode for you that will make you laugh every step of the way, because I have the guys from the band Worth the Wait, an alternative metalcore band out of Akron, Ohio, Dakota and Joe, on the podcast today. Their brand new song, Obey Decay, has been out for less than a week, so everything you need to know about that song, well, some of it's going to be in here, because we talk about so much stuff that's just going to make you laugh, from different movies to Nick Cage. They've got a bunch of crazy stories, and it's just a whole bunch of back and forth on a bunch of fun stories, a bunch of music theory stuff that, you know what, you're going to find out about this band, and they're going to make you laugh every step of the way. So please, please, please welcome Dakota and Joe from the band Worth the Wait to the podcast. Are you ready? You should be. Let's go! Yeah! Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girl listeners of the Chord Progression Podcast. If you guys like metalcore, alternative metalcore, I like metalcore, you guys know this, then I got a band for you. They've been originally around since around 2009, kind of a little bit of a hiatus there, but they are back, and their brand new song, Obey Decay, is out as the time this podcast has been released, and I can't wait to talk to these guys all about it. So please welcome from Akron, Ohio, Dakota and Joe from the band Worth the Wait. So guys, welcome to the Chord Progression Podcast.
Yo, what's up? Thank you.
I'm absolutely loving the pink room behind you guys.
Obviously, yes. This is the house right here, man. This is the sanctuary. Check it out.
Small room.
Say, check it out. It's pink. It's beautiful. I see the Miller High Life beer bottles in the back, which I gotta say, being from the place that makes that beer, respect. So before we start everything off, I like to always start out these podcasts with a little bit of fun and always ask 3 questions to you guys. The first 2 questions, very easy, very, nonchalant. You guys will answer them easy. The last one, that's where I always have my fun, because I always kind of put you guys on the spot with this one. So the 3 questions I'll ask both of you. 1, what is your name? 2, what do you do in the band Worth the Wait? And 3, I want to know a little fun fact or an interesting story about yourselves that is going to make me laugh and potentially fall out of my chair, because I have heard some absolute insane, crazy ones that have made me smack my head on the table. The last band I had on before you guys, they told me a whole entire story about how they were loading and unloading their stuff, and the police force came up because they thought they were human traffickers.
Oh my God. No, that hasn't happened. It's never happened to us. No.
But I'm using that as an example. I've heard even crazier ones too that I could tell you guys, but I want to hear what you guys got.
I have a lot, but I don't know if we have time. So, okay, I'm Dakota.
There you go.
My name is Dakota. I sing, scream, engineer, produce, write, and edit, and every other thing for Worth the Wait.
Yeah, both of us basically do everything. I bring all the guitars, drums, space, guitar, stuff like that. He engineers and makes it sound the way that it sounds, the way you guys hear it. We do all the artwork, the video work, all that fun stuff as well. We just had one of our buddies, Cody Doyle. He did our
music video.
He did the music video, yeah.
And we got some new promos too.
Yep, he did some pictures for us. But other than that, basically everything that is seen, heard,
is just us two.
Yeah, it's just us two.
We literally edit everything. We write and we produce pretty much everything, regardless of who it is.
Normally it'll start off in my head, and I'll demo it out in my house, in my studio, at home. And then once I get a solid idea, a solid basis for a song, I'll send it over to him, track it out on our MIDI tracks for our guitars, bass, and everything like that. And then we'll just kind of fuck with it until we like what we're got with.
Yeah, that's literally how it went. And this song, Obey Decay, is actually the smoothest song that we have ever written together.
I
remotely.
think I started it. It took me about 7-8 hours to get a bassist down. I sent it to him. He did some stuff, and total, I'd say it probably took about 10-12 hours.
Yeah, the whole song. And usually we put, I think, Blackwater
weeks into it, just revising and revising and revising, and like this sounds a little bit better. You could bring the cymbals up just a little bit more.
Yeah, and like I listened to the new song and I'm like, oh, the guitars aren't loud enough.
Yeah, you literally just texted me that the other day. I was like, it's too late now.
And I'm just like, whatever, it's fine, it'll be okay. Ain't nobody gonna know. But yeah, so
we'll do better next time.
I'll say, well, now they'll know because you guys said it.
Listening for it.
Yeah, no, it was a very smooth thing. But
every time we do guitars, though, it always seems like there's at least somebody, or even myself, I'll be like, I can't hear my guitars, I can't hear my playing. I want to hear more
shit like that. But okay, crazy story. Okay, I'm trying to think, man. I have so many.
I'm gonna let him do the crazy story with the band because I don't really have it for Worth the Wait. But
we haven't done anything because it's been just us two kind of just like making music in like our bedroom / living room / dining room / basement / attic / closet.
You live your studio
and
2 days, so
I'm just like looking at my house for like which room's the coolest. Like right,
where's the creative juices flowing today?
Right, like I'll put that shit in the dining room, so I can sit and watch TV while I'm working on shit. I'm just like, okay, but. Man, I'm trying to think. I mean, dude, there's been like
on the spot for sure.
You'd be surprised how often this happens where all of a sudden it's like I put bands on the spot and then they always look at the one person and it's like, okay, you start, and then that just gets the creative juices flowing, and then next thing you know, I'm hearing a story about a drive-by.
Bells here and there, stories will start popping up.
So there was one show that we played. And this is band related. I'll tell an unrelated band story too. But we played this show in Kent, Ohio, and at that show we came as Romans that day, and we were on like the side stage or whatever. And I played without shoes on that day. It was just a thing, man. It's like, oh, the vocalist took off his shoes. Like, I ain't got no socks or shoes on. I'm ready to tear shit up. Like, I'm ready to fight somebody. And, my 16, 17-year-old self, I was just like ready to just throw down. And so we had like the crowd moving and all that. Everything was pretty cool. And after the show, I get up and my girlfriend comes running up to me saying, oh, these guys are trying to fight you, some shit. And I'm like, wait, what? And like some dudes like flipping us off through the window of the venue from the outside and shit. And I'm like, wait a second. And she's like, he tried fighting me. And I'm like, wait, what? And then like I go out there and I'm like, listen here, motherfucker, I'm gonna beat the shit out of you and all that. And fucking our like band dad at the time came up and like tackled me and like clotheslined me to the stage and took the wind out of me. And I was just like, my back was against the stage, but my feet were on the floor. Like I was in it like an L shape. And like, because he's like, Dakota, I swear to God, if you make another noise, they're gonna call the cops. We're gonna get kicked out of here.
Never be allowed.
And then I'm like, okay, you know what? Fuck that guy. And so that was a thing. And the owner of the bar came out. He's like, hey, everybody yelling and screaming in here, trying to fight each other. I think that dude ended up getting kicked out, but we didn't, so that's good.
You said he was already outside. That's gonna be a fun story.
Nah, that's all good. You just gotta tighten up all them Allen screws. All 4 of them. And but no, he was outside like smoking, like he was out there by the patio. It was at the outpost, and fuck that guy today. I still have no idea who he was, who he is. I knew nothing about this gentleman other than he was a little like, I don't know, stupid. Like, no, he flipped over a table and like he was gonna try to fight me and shit. And like this was all happening in real time.
Like your show, bro.
He didn't apparently. Dude, everybody says that, but nobody knows me. That's the craziest thing. Yeah. I hear so many stories of like people that are like, yeah, dude, I don't know, man. My ex-girlfriend says she fucked you. And I'm like, dude, I don't even know you. I don't know her. I don't know anything you're talking about here. And like, that happened often. And I'm just like, dude, who's saying
what?
you're doing what with me? Because I don't know these people. And if that word gets around, like, I don't want someone, like, what happens if, like, oh, you know, my big head was like, yeah, what happens when I blow up? And then someone's like, I had sex with him. And I'm like, no, you didn't. Like,
wait.
It's going to happen, bro.
Dude,
Dakota,
and it
hold up.
happened. Like,
Hold up.
so often. And, like, now I'm, like, fucking old and shit. Now I'm like, dude, I hope you didn't say any, because it's crazy. It's just fucking nuts.
Jesus Christ. I mean, thinking about this, I gotta say, that's just absolutely insane. I mean, I thought that the whole entire, this guy trying to fight you with no motive outside of he wanted to fight you for some random reason was crazy. Now I'm hearing stories about how people are telling you, yeah, my girlfriend said she hooked up with you. And you're just like, dude, I don't even know you. I don't even know who she is. Like, what the heck?
Right.
Like these stories are circulating, and all of a sudden it's like, I mean, these stories circulate around, like, you know, these massive celebrities, these massive musicians, but all of a sudden it's like, it's happening to you. It's like, you're basically like this regional, insanely big celebrity at this point.
Right.
Makes you start thinking, who am I?
Right. Like, you know, no, like, I recorded this band once. Their name was We Shall Prevail. And, like, they're like, oh, dude, I heard you hooked up with that vocalist, that one band. And she was all like, yeah. And her boyfriend was going to kick your ass. He told us if we recorded with you that, like, we should jump you and shit. I'm like, dude, I don't know you guys. I don't know who they are. I don't know what is happening, dude. I don't even know where they live. Like,
that's how it was when I started my new job. I started my new job, and, like, I don't know, 3-4 days in, the security guard at the front desk was like, she said my name, but we hadn't talked yet. And I was like, how do you know who I am? It's like, I don't know who you are, but I know who Dakota is. Like, what? How do you know who Dakota is? How do you know that I'm associated with Dakota? And I'm like, okay, leave me alone.
Okay, now, in my defense, he told me the name of this person. I've never spoke to her, ever. The last time I talked to her, I think maybe it was one time on MySpace. So if this could give you, and he just started his job, what, 4 months ago?
It was 3-4 months ago.
Okay, so MySpace to 4 months ago, somebody found him and said, I know this guy.
Yeah, they knew us.
And I have, like, I said, hey, what's up, one time as a response on MySpace in 2008. Okay.
4 Ys.
There used to be this meme that was like, it was pre-meme. There were no memes at the time. And, like, it was just like, hey, and it had, like, the HEYYYYY. And then there was a little bracket underneath. And
yes!
so every Y, it was like, hey, what's up?
Yeah,
hey,
something.
Yeah. And, like, it's the truth. But, like, bro, we're not on AIM anymore. Like, calm down.
Times have evolved.
Right. Like, I'll hit my mom up and be like, hey, actually, that's not true. But, you know, I'll hit people up that, like, you know, I don't talk to very often. And I'll just be like, hey, yo.
Well, no, Dakota, I gotta ask you this question because I just pulled up that picture for reference. I want to make sure I know what it is. So I gotta ask, do you remember how many Ys was in this?
I want to say 4.
Okay, so 1 Y is, you know, nothing. 2 Ys is friends. 3 Ys is I think I like you. 4 Ys is take the hint, dumbass.
Yep.
Yes.
I knew it was 4.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Or no, I read that wrong. 1 Y is friends. 2 Ys is I think I like you. 3 Ys is take the hint, dumbass. 4 Ys is let's fuck.
That's it. Yeah, 4 Ys.
Anything longer than that is I'm drunk.
Yeah. It's like, yeah.
Just yelling at me at that point.
Yeah, right.
But again, the thing that just amazes me is the fact that this was brought up recently, and this was something that happened back in the MySpace days of 2007, 2008.
Right.
I'm wearing a hat. It's really small. You have a small head, Joe.
Yeah. It's not as small when my hair's up and my belly.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, that's not even just like local celebrities now. That's like living legend style right there. If people are bringing something from like 12 years ago and are knowing from a MySpace message. Jesus Christ.
Ruin the future, you know?
Right, man.
You're still salty about this? Come on, get over it.
When it comes when
it's not working. Hold on, wait. Maybe if I look like Wayne's World.
Wayne's World.
Wayne's World. Party time, excellent.
I was gonna say, because the only thing I remember about from like 2008, the only thing I really remember was the fact that I was listening to a lot of Disturbed. I don't remember anything I said outside that except listening to Disturbed. That was it. No, wait, I do remember my Indestructible CD getting taken because I went to a Catholic school, and like every Friday or someone was like, okay, we're gonna have like this like, you know, study hall period, and then they'd always let a kid bring in like a CD or something. When it was my turn, I brought an Indestructible by Disturbed. All I knew was I had to skip past Deceiver, which is the third track, because David Draymond just blatantly says fuck it. And I'm like, okay, can't have that. And after Inside the Fire, I was going to get up and go skip the track, because after it came the Night, I'm like, okay, Night's a pretty good track. All of a sudden, the music just stopped. I'm like, what the hell's going on? And my teacher took it from me. And I'm like, no, give it back. And she wouldn't give it back until my mom came back with she wouldn't give me back until my mom signed a note saying that I brought it to class.
Oh my God.
And no, the funny thing is when I gave the note to my mom, she read it. We read it aloud in the car, and she was laughing hysterically throughout the whole entire thing, because she was the one that took me to buy the CD.
Right.
Yeah. She's supported.
I have a story kind of like that.
I was gonna say, there was just somebody posted in a metalcore group on Facebook earlier, and they were like, just newly found God or whatever. Anybody have any Christian metalcore bands they could recommend me?
I saw you put the art.
I was like, Die Artist Murder.
Dude, that's the second time I've seen that. I question if they were a Christian band today, because I see that so often in the comments of those people asking.
Maybe they are.
I mean, people will point to like, you know, like some bands being Christian. It doesn't even matter. There was this really big Christcore era, is what it's called.
Yeah.
And that was when you had all those Ohio core bands. You know, you had like Attack, The Devil Wears Prada, the Crimson Armada, fucking Amorosa, Under Oath, I mean, the first five are all from Ohio. Like, and they were the biggest bands at the time. So it's like, because Amorosa became like Miles to Flames. And then fucking who else did you have? You had Under Oath.
I mean, I got Fit for a King is in there.
Yeah, and then Demon Hunter, they're like more on like the hard metal side. It wasn't really metalcore, but
don't forget Creed.
Dude, Scott Stapp is a nut, dude.
Scott Stapp.
Yeah. He's all hey, did you see him on it was Spike? They had that poker night thing or whatever between the shows, and he's like, oh, I love girls, try to kiss them. And then like he like got up to the host, he's like, oh, give me a kiss. And like the host.
I know what you said.
When it comes to Creed, I still stand behind the fact the best thing that happened to Creed was all the guys except Scott Stapp stayed together, and then they formed a new band, and now we have Alter Bridge.
Nuts. Yes.
Well, yeah, Scott Stapp, he fucking went nuts. I think he was drunk on some interview show or something, and he was doing some fucking.
That was the fucking show.
Yeah.
Okay.
He went nuts after that, and just
No, he was like, hey guys, Barack Obama and the CIA and the FBI are chasing me. He's got like this black and white video on YouTube, right? And he's got this book bag on. He's on a bicycle. And I'm thinking, dude, if this is true, he would just drone you. But whatever. And like, so, you know, he's like, they're after me. And then like, you hear like somebody made a video like of that video into the phone call from his girlfriend, or no, his sister. I'm pretty sure it was sister. She's like, sorry, my brother, he's gone insane. He's saying these people are after him. He has a bunch of newspapers in a book bag. He's riding his bike right now. If you could please catch him and don't hurt him. He doesn't know what's going on. And like, he just kept releasing these videos and like sepia tone, and then black and white again. And like, it was just like dramatic videos. And now he's back in Creed, and we just act like we all forgot.
Are they still around?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're trying.
It's a whole new thing.
Yeah, they're trying to do a comeback with all the guys, because right now I know Miles Kennedy is releasing his second solo record in May, so it's kind of like if they're gonna do like a little like Creed reunion kind of thing, now's the perfect time before, especially with what happened with COVID too, because with Alter Bridge they were. I was gonna say, because with COVID, like with Alter Bridge.
From this place, I'll show you everything.
We sang a variation of that song at work, but I'm not gonna do it here. That's the song you chose to sing.
Well, that's the one everybody knows. I remember I was 10 years old at karaoke night at my campgrounds, and like everybody, all the kids knew that song. And like
my parents used to listen to Creed. They go to their concerts when we were kids. Like that's what
I was more of a Nickelback fan at the time.
Nickelback was on the list.
Like Silver Side Up is a banger. That whole album is just bangers. Like, I mean, it's you remind me of what I really am. Now that I'm an adult with some drinking issues, that song hits home. And you know, whatever. Like, no, when you grow up, music changes, man. Just like movies.
Oh, it does.
Do. Like the same song, you can hear it when you're like 15 and be like, man. And then when you're like, 20, you're like, oh, that's what that means. And then when you're like 25, you're like, oh, fuck, man, that hurts. And then like, and it's same thing like after you like have children, man. And like the movies hit differently. Like fucking Forrest Gump, dude, makes me cry now. Like fucking that shit. When I was a kid, I'm like, but now that I'm an adult, like he finds out he has his son the whole time. That scene where he's like, wait,
you're not gonna start crying on the podcast.
He belonged to me. And then she's like, he's your son, Forrest. And then he's like, looks at her in this weird way, and then like you just look at the kid and like shit. Yeah. It's like just this really deep moment. And it's just like wild because like when I was a kid, I just laughed at the whole movie. But that movie would never come out today.
Oh, God,
that was like one of those things that like we had.
They don't make them like that anymore.
I mean, if they did, they would have to use somebody that actually had those issues instead of just having Tom Hanks play that role of somebody that also had. I mean, like he was also in what?
Isn't that what actors do? They play roles.
Yeah, but you don't play those types of roles. What movie was that? I mean, there were a whole bunch of them back in the day. But okay, you know what? Off topic. Let's not talk about that. All right. On to the next one.
No, but the one thing I do want to jump back on with what you said, Dakota, was when you're talking about music and it's like like stuff that you listen to, back when you're like 15, 16, as time goes on. It's these songs that kind of hit differently. You understand the meanings more. Like even with my favorite song of all time, heard it first when I was 14. I'm just like, this song is the shit. And then as time kept going on, I kept thinking, this song is the shit. And all of a sudden I went through a horrible breakup. I'm like, I fucking don't want to listen to this song. It's my favorite song, but I don't want to listen to it. Then all of a sudden, I saw it live again. I'm just like, now I know I love this song again. And the song is all about being okay with a breakup. And I'm just like, oh. No, this makes a lot of sense.
It takes that time. You gotta go through those things, and you'll understand.
Yeah, it's definitely a wild ride because, like there's some songs now that I can't listen to that I listened back then, and for some reason, like they just hit my ear really weird, and they put me in this really weird headspace. And whether maybe I was going through something at the time, and I correlate that song with that moment.
Oh, yeah, music, and I mean, even movies too. It definitely take you back to a place that.
Like I watch a lot of comedy, like especially new comedy, to try to like relieve that. I mean, my favorite movie of all time, or at least in the top 5, will be Step Brothers. But like when that movie's over, I'm still sad. I'm like, oh, the movie's over. Now what? And they still haven't made a second one. They made that stupid fucking Sherlock Holmes and Watson together when they were supposed to be making Step Brothers, and then they gave that to us. It's like a PG movie, and it's just John C. Reilly, Will Ferrell, get your shit together.
Just go back before Step Brothers and just enjoy what came out between the two of them before Step Brothers came out. Just go back and enjoy
Talladega Nights was so good, and like it was that. I mean, they're just like the best duo in my opinion.
Unpopular opinion: Will Ferrell's not funny.
He thinks that Will Ferrell's not funny, and he's wrong.
Joe, if my brother was on the podcast, he would be in total agreement with you and be like, "Thank God, someone finally fucking understands."
Someone else in the world agrees.
He's probably slinging drinks in Madison, Wisconsin right now. I don't think I can pull him out for this.
Is like, say something that'll get you into this position, and there's like 15 swords pointed at their neck.
Yeah, that's from Desperado, the cartoon animated movie.
That's me when I say Will Ferrell's not funny.
Like, I have the Burger King action figures of those characters on that movie. But dude, no, I hate. One thing that I hate that like grinds my gears is like when you see those posts on Facebook just trying to trigger you. They have like 8 really good things, and then they're like, "You got to take one away." And then I'm like, delete? I don't need you in my life. I don't need to take any of this shit away. I just need to be happy. You are fucking up my happiness by trying to convince me to remove something from my life that is bringing me joy. No. And like, like get the, no, I'm not. They're like, oh, you got to choose one. And I'm like, oh, you got Jim Carrey, Adam Sandler, Will Ferrell, and who the fuck else would be thrown in there? Fucking
Seth Rogen.
Yeah, exactly. And then they give me these options, and I'm like, okay, first of all, if you don't like Adam Sandler because you think he's stupid or he makes dumb shit, have you seen fucking his latest movie? The fucking is it Family Jewels? No, that's Gene Simmons. What the fuck is that movie called?
Oh, Uncut Gems.
Uncut Gems. Yes. Oh my god, dude. That movie fucked me up, dude. I was watching it and I'm like, oh yeah, oh shit, he's got this shit in the bag. And then zoop, and everything's just gone.
Isn't that one more of a serious role though? Or is it a comedy too?
It's like a weird mixture of him being a shithead in New York, and he gets tied up with some things, but like people are like, oh yeah, he always does these stupid roles or whatever. Yeah. Grown up.
I mean, a lot of his roles, a lot of his movies is just him yelling.
I mean, no, that is like Jim Carrey.
Well, no, that's definitely true too.
No, Adam Sandler goes more.
No. When it comes to just straight up yelling, I mean, the only actor that either yells or just whispers all of his dialogue is Nicolas Cage. So if you're watching Nick Cage, just whisper really softly.
You're seeing him. He was in that movie. What's it called? Parents. It's when they get this weird disease. All the parents do, and then they like are convinced that they need to kill their children, and like. He's like going through his house with an axe and shit, trying to kill his kids. And like, they're trying to like fucking gas him out in the basement with propane and shit. And the kids got to escape. And it was just
sound like a funny one.
Oh, it was a good one. I'm not saying it was funny. I'm saying it was great. He sucked in fucking Ghost Rider 2. Oh my God. It was directed by the guy that did Crank. So I can understand why it turned out the way that it did. It's similar. And Crank was a great movie. I think that was Jason Statham's best movie.
Did we ever find out if he stole the Declaration of Independence when they raided the White House a couple months ago?
It's not. The Declaration of Independence is in the National Archives, not in the Capitol. So no. But it would have been a great distraction. I know there's a movie coming out with Nick Cage at some point where literally he's like this very like quiet mechanic who has to go into like a Chuck E. Cheese style thing and fix a bunch of like the animatronic robots, but they come to life and try and kill him. And all he does is just like
amazing.
All he does in the movie is just go on a rampage and scream the entire time. I'm just thinking, this sounds like something that is
and like he has this signature scream that's just like.
Like I'm thinking for this movie, it's gonna be horrible. It's gonna be just like the lowest quality thing. But it's going to be something you cannot take your eyes off of because you're going to be just so infatuated with the fact that Nick Cage is going on a murderous rampage for animatronic Chuck E. Cheese characters.
It's your thing right there.
The camera's over here.
Oh, I've been looking over here the whole time. Anyway, so, I mean, Nicolas Cage, though, like, I actually watched a video of him and how he got to the point where he acts the way that he does as an actor. And he said that he literally used to watch silent films when he was starting acting to try to animate the faces that they would and to convey the emotions and the way that they were feeling without saying anything. But then he added his voice into that as well. And that's when it just kind of got weird. But the fact that he was so animated and so kind of insane and on the edge and like almost unworkable was why people loved him so much. And he literally has made more movies than a lot of the top actors, maybe out of the loss of money or just the want to do it. I mean, he was in Kick-Ass after National Treasure. Like, I mean, and then he was in...
just an all-around actor. You do it all.
Yeah, I mean, like one of my favorite movies with him is Face Off, but another one I like was fucking. A lot of people never seen Face Off, and I'm like, dude,
that's John Travolta.
Yeah, it's John Travolta.
They had those boots in the prison that were stuck to the floor. And they could only walk. Dude, Con Air. Like, you know, every time I see one of them blow dryers, I'm like, Con Air. You know?
I'll say, like, when it comes to Nick Cage, though, if you really think about it, like, with that whole entire, like, animated style, there is really, I think, no perfect movie for that than if you've ever seen A Vampire's Kiss, because you just see the whole, like, de-evolution, and you see all the faces happening throughout the whole movie.
Like, it's just wild. And I love it. I'm like, dude, memes to come, man. Memes to come. And, like, but Wicker Man really fucked me up. I think that was my favorite Nicolas Cage film of all time. When, like, he, like, befriends these people and shit, and they end up making him the sacrifice, and this giant wicker man, they set on fire at the end, and he's dying inside, and they took his daughter and shit, or
when he dresses up as the bear and then punches the nun. I just, like, lost it during that moment. It's like, what is it, sister? Just runs up, just like full on haymaker straight to the face.
I don't even care, man. I don't even care. I'll take it.
I'll say the only thing that got me kind of pissed about that movie was, like, they set it up for, like, a sequel, and the guy that they had it set up for the sequel. But if you watch it again, the guy they had set up for the sequel for it to, like, have that happen to him was James Franco. Go back and watch it. They set it up to where James Franco could have had that happen to him, like, 7 years down the line. It would have been nuts.
That would have been a lot. Like, I love James Franco as, like, an actor, but it turns out he diddles kids. And it's like the whole thing again. And it's like, bro, why?
What are you doing that for?
Yeah, dude. I liked you in Spider-Man, dude. And now apparently he's just stuck, you know? But Dave Franco, I haven't heard any bad things about him. He's hilarious. Fuck yeah.
I haven't seen him in anything since 2015, though.
Huh?
I haven't seen anything with Dave Franco since, like, 2015. That was it.
I think he was on. Let's see. But no, I think he was on, like, an episode of Black Mirror or something with him. Oh no, we all have computers at our fingertips, but we're not using them.
They're busy at the moment.
It's a lot more fun to randomly speculate, and then hopefully in the comment section on YouTube or wherever else the comment section is, people are like, oh, it's this, it's this, it's this. It's just like, well, you guys did the research for us. Thank you.
Right. Yeah, man. No, Dave. There. Oh no, fucking. He was in Disaster Artist. Yeah. And then he wanted to be the artist the whole time, and Donnie Wiseau was like, "No." It was just like, it was funny. That movie's great, but it's also James Franco and Dave Franco.
Zip Brothers.
And Seth Rogen.
And Seth Rogen. Like, oh man, he's got his own weed out now. It's called Houseplant.
Seth does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he can get his own weed, and he bought the domain for like $60 or something from somebody, and they didn't know what it was going to be used for, and now they're kicking themselves. Houseplant.com.
Houseplant.com, coming to a dispensary near you. Well, if
right,
you're in a state that has legal weed, which I know between your state and my state that we both live in right now, that ain't a thing.
No, it's not a thing. No. Apparently, it's about to be recreational in New York State, though. That's pretty cool.
I think I was like recently looked at it. There's like, it's like legal, like recreation is legal in like, I think it's like 12 or 13 states right now.
Yeah, and then medicinal is like 27 states. And then I'm like, why don't you just end the war on drugs? Like, people are going to do them regardless. It's not going to change it.
I know people I've known people that have done them for, God, like 10 years at this point already. And I'm just like, for me, I look at it, I'm like, I don't do it. I really don't care to do it. But if you want to go and do it, why should I give a shit?
Right. Like, why should we put you in prison for doing it? like, you know what? Let's charge $57,000 a year to to the taxpayers per person for doing it. Just because. We'll lock them up, and then their mental health will go to shit. And then once they're released, they'll do it again. And then we'll just keep doing that. It's just a revolving door. I mean, we could just also, instead of investing in like private prisons and like expanding jails, we could just, do rehab too. Or like give people money so they can actually like have a a reason not to just use every day. Give them a job, put them on jobs program. We could do so many things and offer housing, and it's actually cheaper if you did that. But the average cost to house one inmate per year is $57,000, which is like 40% more than any of those inmates would ever make while working a job that they could obtain. But we pay for it, so it's fine.
I don't want to pay for that. My taxes are like the rent. It's too damn high.
Right. I say the same thing. I'm like, dude, if you're making under like 30 grand, you shouldn't have to pay taxes. If you're making like 50 grand, you should have to pay very low taxes. But once you're hitting like 250,000 a year, it's like, okay, maybe you should pay a little bit more. And then once you're hitting like 10 mil a year, it's like, maybe you guys should have to pay taxes because you don't. It's like once you make so much money, you just stop paying. And that's the weirdest part. Like if you surpass the threshold, they're like, yeah, you don't owe us anything. Like there's a cap on Social Security that if you pay, I think it's like if you earn more than like 75,000 a year, you can pay the whole Social Security tax in one paycheck. And like it's just the thing, and that's it. If you choose to, I mean, it's taxed at 75,000 a year. So,
that's one thing I actually didn't know. Holy shit.
Yeah, that's where it's capped. Like, if we raise the cap on taxable income, then we could definitely have a lot more for, like, Medicare and Social Security, and then us younger people would actually get it when we were old.
But honestly, I don't think anything's going to change with it, especially with the way that, especially with American politics, with how everything gets stalemated, where one side, if they think one thing, the other side automatically has to go against it, so nothing gets done. I mean, I'm planning by the time if I ever get to that retirement age, or if, I mean, who the hell knows, but I'm planning on basically when it comes to Social Security, I'm planning on that not being an option. Like I'm planning on getting zero from that.
Right. It's like, we're not going to get Medicare. Like, bro. And that's the craziest thing is like a lot of people that get Medicare are against Medicare. And like, it's not because they don't like it. It's because they're like, well, I had to get old enough to get it. And, so they don't want other people getting it. They're like, dude, this is only for me. This is not for you. It's like the same people in the age group that are allowed to get vaccinated. And then, they're like, it's for us. It's not for you. And it's just like this whole ageism.
Well, oddly enough, with the whole entire vaccine thing, I found out recently that, like, because here, like, at the time we're recording this here in Wisconsin, it isn't open up to everybody yet. Everyone's 16 or older is, like, the last group to go.
Yeah, and I'm like, dude, these are the people running the world for the next, like, 50, 60 years.
Well, check this out, because, like, it started out with, of course, the first responders and all people that work in the medical field, which no one was complaining about to get them getting it first. Then it was people over 65. Teachers would get it. People that were living in like communal facilities, like nursing homes would get it. That kind of stuff. Assisted living facilities. But then, like, I'll put this here in Wisconsin, where all of a sudden they had this list of like, if you have these certain conditions, then you can get it. However, I was looking it up, and one of my friends told me, take a look at it because you might qualify. I'm like, how the hell would I qualify? I'm like healthy as a freaking horse. And I looked at it, and it was, if you're considered overweight, you could get it, and that means your BMI number has to be above 25.
Then I could get it.
Yeah, no. Well, check this out. I mean, I like this today before this podcast. I was in the gym. I ran 8 miles and then did leg day. Okay, so there is no way in hell I should be available for this. But with my height and how much I weigh, apparently my BMI number is 25.1. According to Sale, I am technically overweight. So I could get it if I really needed to.
Dude, I'm morbidly obese, okay? Like, according to my BMI, every time I go, they're like, okay, you're this tall, you weigh this much. And, like, you've seen us in promos or whatever. But according to that, I'm morbidly obese. Joe over here probably weighs a healthy weight.
I've weighed 140 since my junior year of high school. And that was 9 years ago.
Oh, there you go. Oh, no. And, but, they would probably consider Joe a healthy weight.
Oh, no, I'm underweight for sure.
If you're weighing 140 and you're how tall? Like, what,
5'10",
5'11"?
Mm-hmm.
You might be on the low scale of healthy weight.
But that's still healthy. I am morbidly obese. And I weigh like 180, and I'm like 5'9" or something, 5'8", 5'9".
Don't let society tell you who you are.
But, like, the thing is like, I used to work out a lot as a kid. And like I got a bunch of random muscle because I would just work out every day. I had a crush on a girl, and like, you know, so now I have like shit that I can't get rid of, and like parts of my body, they're just way more than others. But like, I mean, I also put on the COVID-15, so sure. Like, you know, it's just every time I go, they're like morbidly obese, and I'm like, oh damn,
That makes me feel great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll say every time I go to the doctor looks at me, he's like, look at the chart, he's like, okay, technically you're overweight. I'm looking right now. There is no way in hell that that's possible. I'm like, right? Are you fucking kidding me? But apparently if I want, I'll put it this way. Apparently if I wanted to, I could technically gain the system and potentially qualify for a COVID-19 vaccine based on my BMI number, even though for people that like have those conditions or like are overweight or obese that would like compromise their immune system. For me, healthy as a horse, work out 6 days a week. But just because I've got more muscle mass than fat that kind of overtakes that, it's like I'm a healthy overweight, which is really weird to say.
Yeah, no, I get that completely. And like I've worked a lot of jobs. Usually, the jobs where I work that I lose weight are the jobs that are like fast paced, lifting a little bit amount of weight repeatedly for like 12 hours. But then when I work in the jobs where I'm standing looking at something for 12 hours, I'm just like, when's the lunch? You know, like I need to eat something because I'm falling asleep, and you know, but like quarantine has fucked me up though. Like the whole thing, like I got really sick about a year ago, maybe a little bit longer than a year ago now. My whole house got sick. We were sick for like 2 months. And after I was sick, I started leaking this weird fluid from my nose. It was like this yellow shit. And then I had really bad anxiety, and I couldn't think, and I couldn't really even walk. And I was having heart problems, tachycardia came back, and like all this other crazy shit. I went to the ER. They're like, we're going to put you on a heart monitor. And then when I finally got it 2 months later, they're like, yeah, I think you're fine. You're just having arrhythmia symptoms. And then I'm like, okay, but why? And they're like, you know, everybody just goes through this, whatever. And I'm like, okay, but do you think it's related to like coronavirus? And they're like, we don't really know. And then I'm like, okay, then why the fuck did I do this? And like, you know, and it was happening. It still happens. Like every night when I go to bed, there's just these, like, my heart just decides to just start fucking up. And like I had surgery when I was 15 to like kind of correct it. But after I got sick, like symptoms that I hadn't had in 10 years just appeared out of nowhere. And like my whole house got sick. Like, I mean, I had to like prop up my kids' beds, like their mattresses, shoving pillows underneath them. We were doing like nightly treatments, just putting like, you know, air humidifiers in their rooms and everything. And it was just a lot. And because I didn't want to take them to the hospital because I didn't want them getting sick from something there. And at this point, the only info on coronavirus was on YouTube. And like nobody was talking about it in the United States for some weird reason. And yeah, and so like I lost both my grandparents that winter, and which was also strange. They just had a cough and then they died. And it was just crazy. And fucking yeah, they're like, oh, that wasn't COVID related. And I'm like, oh. And then there's like reports like, yeah, it was here in like the summer of 2019. Or yeah, I mean, that's why it's called COVID-19. And fucking, you know, that God, if we had like a better governance, you know, I could just like tell people things, that would have been cool. And we didn't. And then we all suffer for it now. And now I'm just some long hauler that can't walk up more than 2 flights of stairs. And here we are.
It would have been, but Dakota, I got to backtrack on something that you said because it just stuck on my mind. It was when you were talking about that when you were sick, because you said like there was a lot of like yellow stuff come out of your nose and you were getting this massive amount of anxiety.
Yeah.
Okay, the reason why I got to bring that back up is because at the beginning of March, all of a sudden, like I was like, oh, you know, I'm kind of got like this, like it feels like my sinuses are trying to drain. I thought it was like either a cold or or like allergies, because I'm like, it's getting warm out again, and it always happens. But what happens is like all of a sudden it's like I would try and like blow stuff out of my nose, like try and clear it, and there was just like these yellow blobs that would just like come out of nowhere.
Yeah,
and then
dude, it was gross.
And I've never had anxiety like crazy in my life, and over the past 2 months, I've had what felt like 2 panic attacks. I really like felt like it was in my chest. It was the weirdest thing, and I've never had that happen before. So the reason why I wanted to bring that up is I'm like, holy shit, this is actually like I'm not the only person that this happened to. What the fuck? And I'm actually talking to someone this happened to as well.
Yeah, no, I actually know people that this year that don't even believe in coronavirus experience more anxiety than ever. And then I'm like, okay, maybe you should think that it might be real, that every doctor on the planet is actually honest and not just trying to make some fake pandemic to do something strange.
Sway the election.
Oh yeah, to sway the election 10 months, 11 months later, in Germany or Brazil or China or fucking Guatemala. Yeah, they're just out there just trying to sway the US election and nothing else. That's all they're doing. Everybody's just getting sick in Australia because that might help something crazy, It's just so wild. And like there was so much disinformation. And then you got the president saying it's not that bad. And then he's on recording saying it's worse than the most strenuous flute. But he's not saying that to the public. He was saying it in confidence and privacy with, somebody else. But, then he was coming out like fucking dick face dyke and like, just like, oh, like, just fucking. I was thinking like Dick Van Dyke and like I just kept going.
Just kept going with it.
Well, Dick Van Dyke was a doctor, but anyway, fucking this dude comes out and he's just like, it's not that bad. It turns out he has irreparable lung damage, after having, he got the disease he said didn't exist. Okay, like, what the fuck? Like,
the irony.
It's just crazy. And like a lot of people didn't believe in it and still don't because he said so. And like that's what our new song is literally about, dude. Like, it's just crazy.
Well, now let's talk about that. I was gonna say I call that the perfect motherfucking segue into Obey Decay. So let's talk about that shit. So you said that's what your song's about. Let's talk about, because when I watched the music video for it, there's a lot of things that you put in that music video with the pandemic, with the BLM protests as well. There's a lot of stuff in there that surrounded everything that was 2020. So I got to know, what was the full-on meaning behind this song, including what you had just said?
Okay, so like the meaning behind the song, we originally called it OD.
Overdose.
For like overdose, because of the overdose of like media coverage of everything, just desensitizing everybody. There was so much tragedy that happened in the year 2020 that we didn't think 2021 could top it. But by January 16th, they did. Okay, it took them 2 weeks to just completely top what had gone on for the previous year, which is absolutely insane. And like, but yeah, and then when I was writing the song was like, it was influenced by the events of 2020. Our previous release reflected on not doing what we just did.
Right. The exact opposite.
And like, our previous release, Blackwater, was trying to show a,
like happier, more fun side
of everything. Yeah. And just like having a good time regardless of what is out there. As with this release, I'm like, you know what? It's 2021. At first I wasn't going to write about something like this, but then another crazy fucking event happened. And I'm like, oh my fucking God, dude. Fuck it. You know what? Fuck it. And Joe sent me this recording and I'm like, dude, this pisses me off. It makes me feel angry. I'm going to write it. And, I have a lot of influences from like Slipknot and stuff as a kid. And like, I pulled that and I showed that in this song. Even like Corey Taylor was one of my favorite vocalists for a very long time. My first MySpace URL was Corey Taylor for life with a Y. And, like it was definitely some influence in there. But like the song's just kind of about like blindly following somebody just because
Yeah, just the overdose of media, governmental, and political influence of everybody's everyday lives.
Like, it's just, and then also after I thought about it, I'm like, oh, Obey Decay. That's literally 2 parts of the song. And I'm like, fuck it. Let's just name that the song, because people will remember the part in the fucking song. You know, even though I wanted to have it as short as possible, I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. Add some slashes. That's a song.
Yeah, the song and the title and everything really just kind of came together by itself. And sometimes I feel like the better songs do that rather than actually forcing yourself to get something out.
Well, all the best songs, I think, do that, where it's you're trying to force something out there. What's going to end up happening is you're not going to let the song create itself. You're not going to let the song flow. You're going to try and force every little bit into it. That's going to sound real choppy. It's going to sound like it's not going to make a lot of sense.
It's forced.
Oh, God, yeah. And there's times where I've listened to music over the past 3-4 years and just really dove deep in. I'm like, okay, I can tell that this was definitely put in there as like, okay,
Yeah.
the band definitely wanted to have this
filler
piece
song or something.
Yeah, or it's like the band definitely want to have this piece of it in this song, and they wanted to use it, but because it didn't necessarily flow with the rest of the way the song was building up. But it's like, oh, we really want it in there, and you throw it in there. I mean, for someone like myself, I can tell exactly when that happens. Like, it just sounds completely just off in a way.
Right. Yeah. No, with this one, man, I literally sat there and just started. I heard the instrumental. I moved some things around on my end, and I I just kind of started typing. I looked into my old lyrics to see if I had anything that was fitting with it, with the way that I was feeling, and I really didn't. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna write something completely new, and that's what I did. And I'm just like, sitting there listening to it. I'm like, who the fuck are you? Like, say some fucking air for me. And I was just like going and going. And like, when the breakdown came in, like that actually had like some like old of Mice and Men influence in it. I'm like, oh man, this is sick breakdown. I really like this. After we had everything like finished, and I'm like, yeah, I need like some like highs in there. And because I experimented with my vocals a bit on this song. If you listen to like previous Worth of Weight, I didn't really do like major like mids like I do in this song with any of our songs. Really, they're mainly just backing vocals whenever I would do them. It was mostly highs because my voice is just rather high. And but just the whole song came together so smoothly. Like I made minimal revisions. Like lyrically, instrumentally, just to put it into perspective, I think Slander probably took us 50 total hours.
I don't know. It took us a long time to get that one done.
I think it was like a month, 2 months, something like that. Technically a year. I mean, because you wrote that demo and sent it to me in like 2018.
It was like 4 or 5 months after.
And then we started working, and then I got it in January 2020.
I think you had just moved within those couple of months too. So
yeah, that's exactly what happened. But we put well over 40 hours into that song comfortably, and this one took 10 to 12 hours total to have it.
It was written,
mixed,
edited,
mastered, edited, recorded, the whole fucking 9 yards, like 10 to 12 hours. It was like we could have done it in a day. If we did, but it took us about roughly a week just working here, 2 hours here, 3 hours there. And, that was it. And that's all she wrote. I mean, we also tried to take a different approach with this one. A lot of people write long ass songs, and I'm like listening to music because I try to follow trends, see what's going on. And I almost wanted to take like a clout rapper approach to it. I'm like, okay, how long is a song? 2 minutes. So that's what we fucking did. Like,
it's really short, sweet, to the point. So you'll understand what we're saying.
Like, fucking, I love this song. It's my favorite one by far. And I say that with every song. But it's a good thing, though.
I do feel like our writing process is slowly getting better. We're learning the kinks. We're working out what we like, what we don't like. As they say, developing your sound.
Yeah. I mean, we've been developing our sound for such a long time. And but now we're literally at the point, like we've released 2 singles last year, 1 this year so far, and it's only it's almost April. But this will be shown after April. Anyway,
we're 2 men. We're 2 men.
We're just 2 guys having a good time, and fucking. This is what it is.
Sweet. My phone just died.
Can you plug it in?
It's not gonna reach.
It's not gonna reach. What if we play?
It's turning off. It just ended.
And yep, there goes. Well, we're going to keep this one going. So I'm just going to put this out there as this continues to record. So until they can get back on. So everybody with Worth the Wait, their song. Yeah, no, I can hear you. Hello? I got you guys back on audio. Oh, well, was
All right, yep, yeah, you do have us back on audio.
The phone died.
The phone died.
You got it plugged in.
Oh, come on. You can't have your phone die on me. However, again, this isn't the first time this has actually happened. I've had this happen a number of times. I'm about to do a whole entire promo for it, but I forgot you guys said the other one up there so it's, easier on the screen. And all of a sudden I was going to be like, oh, okay, here we go. And then just, well, we could continue up. And now the phone goes away.
It's still not going to stay on.
No.
No, because it's at 0%. It's just going to continue to battery drain.
All right, hang on 1 second.
Alrighty. Well, as we hang on 1 second, I'm just going to do a whole entire promo for Worth the Wait mid-podcast because, again, like when we had a MTR project on the podcast, this has happened before. So everyone that is listening, Worth the Wait, their brand new song, Obey Decay, is out as of the time this podcast releases. So when it comes to finding the song online, you can find it anywhere you can stream music. You can find the music video on YouTube as well. And I know what you're thinking. You know what? Maybe I should watch this. Maybe I should listen to this because you guys are talking about it. We'll see what happens. So where am I going to go find it? Where am I going to go put it on? And I'm going to tell you right now, you guys know I always do this. In the description of the podcast or in the video, you're going to have the links that say find Worth the Wait online. And everything is going to be there for you guys. I'm going to have the link to the YouTube video. I'm going to have the link to Spotify, Apple Music, so you can just stream this right away and enjoy the crazy 2 minutes that it is. And I would suggest watching the music video as well, especially with everything that goes on in the background from all the references to what happened in 2020 with the COVID-19 pandemic, with the BLM protests, with all that stuff, because it kind of really, everything political wise, lots of with Donald Trump is in there as well. A lot of stuff just really kind of encapsulates everything that we had gone through in 2020 on this track. And I mean, hell, are still going through it at this moment because even though we're in 2021, I mean, we saw it happen at the beginning of the year. We keep seeing things that keep happening over the past 3 months. Things just are still going on. So this is a good track to kind of go into that, especially more of that metalcore sense. I mean, there are definitely a lot of bands that are talking about certain things that are going on right now. And they're really talking about the moments, I would say. However, when it comes to other certain bands like Worth the Wait, when it comes to a band like Ra, who we've had in the podcast twice, it's not necessarily looking at the moments that have happened and the reactions and the causations. It's more or less taking a look at the mindset of what is going on. So, again, definitely check it out. Obey Decay is the brand new track. And yes, you might be able to hear them a little bit if I keep that audio in. I might cut that out, though, because then you guys can hear my full promo in my promo voice. So for everyone that is listening or watching, what is happening right now is Joe's phone died as they were shooting on his phone, and they actually had their laptop, their desktop or whatever set up still, but because the video was very laggy, we were keeping that going as just so they could, they could still see me because I think my video was still, pretty good, But in the end, at least we're able to still have them, kind of hear what's going on. And at least I am. I might cut this all out of the podcast when it comes to their part of this in the audio. But it's kind of funny just kind of listen them go back and, having a good time. But again, so a little bit of more background on Worth the Wait that I know of. Again, it's Dakota and Joe out of Ohio, Akron, Ohio to be specific. Playing that alternative metalcore style. And again, listening to Obey Decay, I want to get him back on here, man, because I got a couple of things to say about this track, especially with Dakota talking about his You think he's on his way? Especially with Dakota talking about his Corey Taylor for life handle from back in the day, because given his vocals, I got to talk a little bit about Corey Taylor with him, because I kind of picked up on a little bit of couple of subtleties on Corey Taylor's style in there. So, I feel like I should start singing some like Tom Petty at this point. The waiting is the hardest part. You can tell my voice is not worth it for singing, but it can be useful for radio and promos. So, man, I'm really going off on this. Should we play the Jeopardy? Oh, shit, I should play the Jeopardy theme over this. And also, for everyone else that's watching, listening, this is not the weirdest thing I've ever had happen on the podcast. Let me go through a couple of the weird things as well. When a Creature from Rebelmatic was on back in June of 2020, when we shot with him, because he was shooting on his phone as well, the reason we had to cut it off when we did was, again, because his phone almost exploded in his hand due to overheating. Again, MTR project, when we had Martin and, what's his name, Dan or Dave? I know I have a friend on Facebook, but I'm completely messing up on this right now. When I had them on the podcast, their video kept freezing every minute and a half. So that's why I kept doing the promos in the video, which was kind of fun. The first time I interviewed Joey Arena from Outlier, the first night that we tried doing it, like I kept that night in there, but we only had like 15 minutes worth of stuff due to the fact that his like the internet kept cutting in and out really badly. And then we jumped on the next day to go and do it. All of a sudden what happened was that was it. Like it took like a half hour for him to get on. I'm like, what the heck's going on? I was wondering what was going on. He was finishing up some stuff. And then he said, hey man, I got to finish up something for like 5-10 minutes. Here, talk to my producer real quick. And his producer is Mr. Justin DeBleek, formerly of Ice Nine Kills. And I was like, holy shit. I was wearing an Ice Nine Kills shirt too that day. It was just freaking awesome. And then recently, the 2 episodes before this one, I had Joey back on the podcast with his Project Arena, who they covered Dreams by Van Halen. And it was also with Justin DeBleek, and I had the podcast with him as well. Let's see some other crazy things that happened during the podcast. Usually when wacky things, let's see, was that From Ashes? Yeah, when Lance from Ashes to New was on the podcast, we had a fun time where he showed up about 10 minutes late. And the reason was because he was in line to get a Blizzard from Dairy Queen. So that did happen. That was kind of fun. Trying to think what else crazy thing happened. And well, looks like we might get these guys back in. Yo, whoa, what the heck was that?
Should be all right now.
All right, I had to mute one of those things because all of a sudden I kept hearing, should be all right now. It was like a total echo. Was the weirdest thing.
This one was doing it too.
Oh, I muted the other one, so now we should be good in terms of like the echo. But during our little off session, I had enough time to promote Obey Decay and then also talk about some of the other wacky things that have happened on this podcast in terms of video. The one I didn't get to was when I was last ready to shoot with Sahaj from the band Rob right before their Brand New Element or Corrupted came out. He didn't show up because he completely missed the opportunity. I can't remember what he was doing, but he just missed it. But my buddy ended up calling me and he said he was getting married the next weekend. And we had to figure everything out like that day. I'm like, huh? But I'm kind of like, every time I have nothing that goes right in the podcast, things go, oh wait, are we trying to get another one in here?
Yeah.
I'm going to cut my phone out just in case it doesn't die again on the charger.
Okay, well, this is definitely and there goes another one. So, not gonna lie, editing this one's gonna be fun. But again, I always deal with the weird stuff anyway. So let's wait for. I think they got their iPad. Okay, we got connected audio on one of them, but it's muted right now. So okay, we got the video, but it's still muted at the moment. Let's see if we can do the ask to unmute. Maybe that'll do a little.
All right. How about now?
All right, I got you guys back. So, well, for the past like 6-7 minutes, again, do the wackiness of the whole entire. Every time something wacky happens on this podcast, something else wacky happens as well. I should have checked my phone during that because there's probably something on there of like, I don't know, someone got pregnant or something, or someone's getting married, or an old girlfriend's like, oh my god, I miss you. Can we please talk? I mean, again, every time something weird happens, every time something wacky happens on the podcast, something else like wacky in like my universe just comes in again. It makes no sense, but it kind of also makes sense. So I'm actually kind of afraid to look at my phone after this to see what happened. But enough with my whole entire wackiness, enough with everything coming to the random technical difficulties, which, when editing this, will it be a little bit interesting? Yes. Will I have some fun with it? Oh, I'll have some fun with it, putting in your little panel like, we're experiencing technical difficulties. Phone battery died.
Where's the charge?
Oh, please don't let this one die on us as well.
Okay, it's got 55%. We're good.
Okay, so now we can actually jump back into Obey Decay. And one thing I prefaced while you guys were away, you might have heard it though, was the fact that the vocals from you, Mr. Dakota. One thing I picked up on that was, and I couldn't believe that you actually said it, was with your former handle on something, Corey Taylor for life, with I being a Y, so for life.
For life. Yes.
The weirdest thing about this was like when I was going through this track, listening to the vocals, I'm like, they've got a little bit of Corey Taylor in there. So I was a little thrown off by it. And like when you said you're primarily more got this like higher pitched tone, you just kind of have a higher voice. And when it comes to kind of like bringing it down, I don't know if you try to go like really low, much more sinister, but you kind of had more of that like Corey Taylor kind of scowl in a way.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, in the intro vocal that you hear, I was kind of influenced by 515, which was the intro track to Iowa. And like, every time I put in Iowa, like, when I was younger, the intro track just blew me away every time. My mom hated it. Like, it's just like, just blast beats and just random screams. And then I'm just like, dude, this is so good. And like, I'd be out in my yard. I had my stereo system connected to a DVD player. And like, it had the red and the white going out of it. I had that going into my stereo system, hooked up to like 18 speakers in my backyard, and I just crank it all the way, out in a rural town and just try to like make as much noise as I could. And I'm just sitting there like, yep, this is cool. Like at like 2 p.m. Like it's just like what I would be doing. And it was fun.
Are you going to do that with this song? Just, go to a random field, just like pull out that DVD player, red and white into the...
Yeah, exactly, dude. I've been anticipating the moment. And, I don't want anybody to hear too much of it until the release day. So I haven't been playing it at all.
Oh, totally understandable. Because even when I got the track, it was like, remember, this track isn't released yet. I'm just like, yep, I've gone through this before. I know the drill.
Yeah, don't leak it. I'll send it to my closest family and friends. I'll be like, don't leak it. If you do, I'll sue you.
I'll sue you, Mom.
I uploaded it to YouTube today, unlisted. And it's like, ooh, you can't monetize this because I already monetized it. Oh, man. Content ID. Look into it, other fellow artists and musicians. It's definitely something to look into. And NFTs are like a big topic right now as well.
It's something where it's like, for me, because I used to really like concentrate on like stuff that was going on in that space, but especially with like a lot of people I was watching and listening to for ideas when it came to the podcast, ML City Rocks, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But ever since I like really was jumping into it, the podcast has been growing. I've been kind of paying less attention to that because instead of like trying to learn and theorize, I'm like, I'd rather be doing right now. So I'm focused in on that. But I do kind of keep a little bit of an eye out for it, an ear out for it. And I'm seeing a lot more of the stuff of this NFT stuff come by. So I got to ask, are you playing any sort of NFT with this release?
Not right now, but we need to. Like, I've been looking into it. I've been reading up on it. And like, I was literally watching Saturday Night Live after watching videos about it like all week. And then like SNL came out and they literally had a song about NFTs and why you should have them. I was like, okay, obviously the universe is telling me this is exactly what I should do.
You should do this.
And
it's a sign,
they say Grimes, she made like $400 million or something like that off of her NFTs last year.
Who did it?
Like Grimes, Elon Musk's wife, girlfriend. Yeah.
Partner.
Baby mama. Yeah.
Because I've been seeing some other ones like pop up, and it's just what I'm taking a look at it is for me personally, I haven't looked into it, so I don't necessarily understand how these things are priced the way they are. Because I saw the guy that had the TikTok with the like just was skating around with the bottle of Ocean Spray, listening, and they had the Fleetwood Mac song over it.
Yeah,
all of a sudden, like that was being auctioned off as an NFT, and the original video was being auctioned off at like $500,000 to start. And I'm just thinking, is it really worth that much? But then again, I'm going back through it. That was a real popular thing back last year. So I'm thinking, they're definitely, it all depends on what people want to pay for it.
Yep. Exactly. Like, I mean, that video could be used on like commercials for Ocean Spray, and people would watch that like as an ad, and they could generate so much revenue from that ad alone for years. People be like, "Oh, you remember the Ocean Spray guy, with the face tattoo on the skateboard?" And people be like, "Yes, it played during the Super Bowl." Like it's like it's like that. Like it's such a crazy thing. And like, I mean, the yodeling kid, that kid came so far from yodeling in like a Dollar General or a Mark's or whatever.
Oh yeah, freaking Walmart.
Walmart,
going,
exactly.
No,
and like that ad, or like even the People of Walmart music video. I mean, it's not really very nice, but if they did and they marketed it, to the right demographic, then they could get a lot of potential customers, or they could sell a product modeled after the yodeling kid. I mean, he was on that remix of that Lil Nas X song. Like, they got the yodeling kid.
Yeah, it's kind of like just I mean, it's like one of those like it's like a digital collectible basically. It's kind of the whole entire premise of it. Because even if you go back and you think about trying to think of a good example, I'm gonna have to go back to our discussion with Nick Cage. Like, if someone buys a copy that like just like a printed copy of the Declaration of Independence, you could charge like $35 for a actual like full on life-size copy of it. Right, but if you took the original thing, the amount that is worth is so much more. And this is just us again. For the government agent listening, this is us going back to our discussion with National Treasure Nicolas Cage. We are no one trying to steal the Declaration of Independence because we are not Nicolas Cage. So where I'm going with that is just the fact that for everyone that doesn't really necessarily understand NFTs, it's again how much an original versus like a reproduction, or like when you're thinking about like concert posters or anything. Like say they sign like only like 15 of them. Mm-hmm. Each one's going to have a value to it because there's only a select amount in the world. Let's say, say Metallica went on some massive tour. They had a bunch of posters for it that say it was a cool ass poster, but they only ever signed 10 of them. All four guys only ever signed 10 of them. How much more are those 10 worth than just one of the other posters that wasn't signed? And then how much is that first one worth over the others?
Right.
It all depends upon how much you're willing to put a value on it. So, like, when it comes to, like, Obey Decay, like, what do you think you guys could do with this song as an NFT?
I think it would be cool to have just on the marketplace, like, personally. And then if anybody actually wanted it, whether they wanted it for, like, some weird alternative clothing commercial or, like, some protest something, or just in the background of a movie that somebody's listening to. Whitest Kids actually were on Breaking Bad. The producer or the director of Breaking Bad, Vince Gilligan, was like, we want the Whitest Kids to be on during breakfast when Walter's watching TV. And they had no idea what Breaking Bad was when the show was being created. And they sold it for like super cheap for them to use on the show. And they're kicking themselves now because they didn't charge more. Like, it's just like your property can be worth as much as you want it to be worth. I mean, like.
Yeah, but you don't know exactly how much it's going to be worth in the future because anything can happen.
Right,
I mean,
but you can sell off a certain amount of rights to where you can still get like 30% regardless. Like if somebody buys it and they want, you can give them 70% for life or whatever, but you still get 30 even if it's like 10 years down the road, and it makes a lot of money.
It's definitely something that I think is going to make people think about, especially in the music industry, how to basically, whenever you create music, how to sell it. And then on top of that, with record company contracts as well, how that's going to change due to the fact that bands are, instead of bands trying to sign these massive record deals and try and get like basically make money with these record companies and try and give their rights to their songs to these record companies, the bands are going to try and find out a way to keep the rights themselves so that they can freely sell them as they wish. And then when it comes to negotiating the deals for them, negotiate them as they wish. So you could either get a set amount of money, you could either get a percent, like you sell it for a less amount, but you always get a certain percentage in return based on whatever it might be. So like with the Whitest Kids, for example, like say they sold that clip to Breaking Bad at maybe a very small price, but they end up getting 1% of the money generated from that episode every time it's played in syndication. I mean, for probably what they sold it for back then is probably a lot less than what that kind of deal could have been had they sold it for a lot less up front, but had that 1% caveat for the rest of time. Yeah, definitely. Like there's like some research that I did on it, and like some people literally sell their logos. Like, I mean, you see those AC/DC shirts at Walmart, like shit like that. And like, I don't think AC/DC really has a whole lot to do with that. I think it's more that they sold their logo to Walmart to print this merch and design it however way that they would, or leased their logo to them. Yeah, they licensed it. They license it like every time you saw I'll use Kiss as an example because Kiss is probably the biggest example of this. You saw Kiss fucking everything back in the 70s and 80s, like Kiss lunchboxes, Kiss toys, Kiss whatever. It was because they licensed out their brand. They licensed out all the IP to their to other places. The kid that I was best friends with growing up, he had Kiss punching bags in his room. And like all these posters, his dad was obsessed with them. But Joe's that's his favorite band, if you didn't know. No.
They revolutionized the music industry, the business.
He has a lot of memorabilia, so don't let him fool you.
I have 4 handheld records. He actually doesn't know what he's talking about. Kiss actually, like with their whole live show and everything, Kiss isn't just a band. You take their makeup, you take their costumes, you take their live show away, what do you have? An entire log of 4-chord songs. Everything, like their artistry is not, they're not that great musicians, but they took the music a different way of being a showmanship and entertainment to make what they have.
Well, they wanted to rock and roll all night and party every day.
They did.
And that's all I want to do, but here I am. So like, I can't live that way because it's actually really hard. Like, it's hard on your body. You can't just do it. But say you just made it seem like a huge disappointment. Rock and roll all night and party every day. Then it was every other day. And now I'm hard pressed to find 30 minutes a week just to get funky. Right. Like, I'm like, okay, what time is it? Is it 7 yet? Okay, I can't do it yet. Okay. And then it's like, oh shit, it's 10 o'clock. All right, I better be in bed here in the next half hour. So we had our fun. All right, guys, time to pack up. We're going home. But I can totally understand where you're coming from with that whole entire Kiss thing too, because it's with them, their music is, if you put up against any other music from like when they were back in their heyday, like the 70s and 80s, there are definitely a lot of other bands that put together a lot better music. Like go back, like think the 70s. Think about bands like Led Zeppelin, The Who, even Rush in the in the 70s with Fly By Night. Like there's definitely bands that put out better music in the 80s. Freaking like Van Halen. But it's when you take a look at but there's so much solid. But there's much more there than just the music. There's the artistry behind it. There's the event that comes with going to a Kiss show. There's just the stage performance. There's everything about that. And now there's a lot of bands that are taking that into account, where it's when people are performing on stage. Again, now I'm seeing a lot more concerts like being scheduled to return, which I'm like, thank fucking God. But seeing more stuff happen like this, what I'm getting excited for is like, okay, what are these bands gonna do? We learn what do they think about over the past year with everything being shut down? What are they gonna change? Especially the bands that may have not been kind of like, I'd say, stagnated in terms of growth. Because there's bands like, I'll use Ice Nine Kills as an example, with the whole entire horror theme and all the storytelling behind it, and all just all the connections to anything horror based. It's just
I mean, it was going up and up and up even during the pandemic too. It's just everything they were able to come up because of it just kept going up and up with basically their stock in a way. So when it comes to them returning, they're still growing, but there's a lot of there's could be a lot of bands out there where it's like, okay, we got to a point where it's just kind of flatlined. So what do we do in order to come out of this pandemic up more?
Right. I mean, nowadays, like a lot of bands are capitalizing on like the live stream events. We Came as Romans has their 10-year anniversary coming up for To Plant a Seed. Falling in Reverse is having that 2-day across the month thing that they're having, and like, you know, the immersive all whatever the hell, and you know, and just promoting shit throughout it. Like, oh, you can buy like, you know, guitars or merch or whatever if you get the tickets.
Yeah, the Falling in Reverse one is freaking nuts with how much they've been done with it.
Like, like fucking, I was watching the ad for it, and then they had the clocks going, and I'm like, God damn it! Like, we always use clocks, not because it's worth the wait, you know, it's just time.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, now we can't do that, you know. And what's funny is actually for our album art originally for Obey Decay, we had a stack of TVs with like all the events from 2020 on it. And then like we were literally getting ready to post it and finalize everything. And then Falling Reverse put out an ad for that event with a bunch of TVs stacked on top of it. I'm like, okay, we can't do that. Joe actually made the executive decision saying, let's do something else. Even though we predated that fucking ad, but whatever.
I thought you were going somewhere completely different with that, because the album I've been anticipating for this whole, like, since the year began. I'm like, I'm hoping this band comes out with an album. The album cover is literally TV stacked on top of each other. And I'm like, so that's kind of funny. Rise Against.
Oh, I haven't even heard anything from them in so long. They let me down last time and the time before, and I'm just like, come on, guys. Like, I feel like the world just kind of trolled everybody back in like 2008 with like MTV2, and they just had all this great music that was in a similar genre, but not at all at the same time. But everything was good. Like, every song was a good song, except maybe that one weird Say Anything song. And it wasn't, yeah, wow, I can get sexual too. It wasn't that one. It was the one before that. And then maybe a Death Cab for Cutie song that just wasn't good, but I just don't like the band. But everything that they put out, like, it was like My Chemical Romance, Fall Out Boy, Papa Roach, The Gorillaz, Rise Against, Yellow Card, Hawthorne Heights was coming out. Reliant K had that one single, and then Cartel.
Yeah, you had early Panic at the Disco during that time as well.
Yeah, like all those songs. This was 2006, and like everything like you kind of wanted was just there. Like everything, like, and like you would never change the channel because the next song was just as good as the previous song.
Yeah,
and it was like, you know, like I didn't know these bands at the time, but I would get every song stuck in my head, like, holy shit, you know, where can I get the CD? Because at the time there wasn't like a lot of like online downloads and shit like that. You know, I mean, there was LimeWire and BearShare, but YouTube had like the music video. But it's like, okay, what if I want to listen to it on my CD and everybody's trying to rip the audio and, you know, whatever. You end up downloading demos from LimeWire, getting viruses out the ass. You're like, fuck it. You know, like, dude, and then you download it and it's just this video of this ambulance just going up the road, just going, woo! And that was the whole thing. And I'm like, okay, this isn't the unreleased special edition leaked version of a song that I've never heard of. And say like Slipknot featuring Korn, featuring ICP, featuring Eminem, featuring Soulfly, featuring Stone Sour, featuring Mushroom Head, and the song's just called Fuck It. And then you download it, and then you're like, this isn't, no, this is not this. Like, at all.
I'm glad I never trusted LimeWire. It was not a good idea.
Fucking LimeWire, man.
But it's like, I know what you're talking about. It's like, because I'm thinking about back to 2006. I'm just thinking, I mean, for me, musically, I wasn't necessarily into rock, metal, and everything, and metalcore, punk rock, all that kind of stuff, really that much back then, because I was a dumbass 11-year-old who was just trying to fit in. But then all of a sudden, like, looking back, and I'm like, okay, my favorite album of all time came out in 2006. Well, a bunch of other great albums came out in 2006. I'm like, why the fuck did I wait on this? Because, I mean, hell, I listen, like, I look at my list and, like, everything I listen to, I'm like, Yeah, usually every day I'm listening to something from 2006. And it's a lot of times it's like, okay, Rise Against, Suffer and the Witness. Here we go. And I just enjoy.
Yes. Like, you know, fucking, they took a weird turn with Swing Life Away as like a label decision. And, but it's still such a solid song. And like that album is just great. And like, Give It All, like the whole, like everything that they did was just good. I mean, they are literally architects. I don't care what anybody says, but like they were just like kind of the precursor to that band. And if you listen to Architects' older music, it's like the same thing. Like they used to be a lot lighter. Well, they started out heavier and then they got lighter and then they got heavier again and then they got even heavier and now they're lighter again. So they're kind of like just on like this roller coaster, you know. It's just like I respect the band. I think they just write great music. You know, everything that they put out I love. Like they haven't put out like some stuff can get repetitive, but you can only write so many riffs. And then what's funny is they write the riffs that everybody else rips off. So I don't see an issue with that. Like that's where they come from. And everyone else is like, huh, I like that.
Well, take a look at a lot of the metalcore riffs in like 2019 and 2020 that came out. A lot of them were very, very inspired by the riff on Doomsday by Architects off the Holy Hell album.
Yes!
And then I kept going through it. I'm like, because there's a lot of albums. Listen, I'm like, holy shit, like this is here. Now, then when For Those That Wish to Exist come on, I'm like, okay, let's see what people are going to go off on this one. And while I wasn't the biggest fan of For Those That Wish to Exist, I absolutely respect what they did on that album and seeing the impact that it's having. I liked it at points. There's points where I wasn't the biggest fan of it. For me personally, if I'm going to go like back to like a certain Architects album, I'm jumping back 3 years. I'm going to Holy Hell and I'm running that thing all the way through. That's me. In terms of like what you're talking, I was going to go on like what you're talking about with Rise Against in that standpoint, because I've talked about this a number of times where you listen to some of the earlier stuff off of the Unraveling, RPM, and then certain songs of the Counterculture. It definitely has more of that raw, straightforward punk rock sound. And then when they got into like Appeal to Reason, Endgame, it kind of started becoming a little bit more poetic and polished, but it still had that punk rock bass. Kind of like Suffer the Witness is like the perfect kind of like blend of the two. But now, and then as time has gone on, they've kind of kept that punk bass, but it's just, it kind of gets a little bit more, I call it polished in a way, like polished punk, because it's still got that punk bass, but it's a little bit more melodic. It's not as rough and raw, but it's more poetic in a way. But I look at it's like, because their album, The Black Market, didn't really care for it all that much. Wolves, which came out in 2017, I actually really like that one. The Nowhere Generation's coming out in June. I'm super excited for this because I've heard the first two songs off of it. I'm like, the first one reminds me of exactly what it came out on Endgame. I'm like, that could have fit in right on that album. The one that they just came out with that announced the album, I'm like, it threw me off the first time I heard it. I'm like, this is different. But then I'll see it again. I'm like, this is classic them though. This is classic them.
Yeah, like I was heavily inspired by them at the beginning of like starting even getting into music, because I just like their political stance on everything. And like they used to have like, I used to watch a lot of Fuse with like Steven's Untitled Rock Show and like, you know, like a lot of MTV2, and they were featured on there a lot. And like, I don't know, they just like stood for a lot of shit, but it wasn't like offensive in a way. Like they're like, yeah, don't eat meat. Just try not to. You know, that was it. Like, it's like, I'm like, huh. And, you know, at the Ready to Fall, like that whole like segment of Rise Against was like huge. Like, you know, at the time, like PETA was a big thing on Warped Tour and everything. And fucking, there was just like so many like, you know, things like pushing it at the time. But like, they were just so good about like delivering the whole thing to where like it wouldn't scare anybody away in a way. Like, it wasn't like, oh, things are super depressing. You know, they're like, yeah, shit fucking sucks. We need to change. You know, but...
And they're going to explain it better versus someone like another band that I really like, though, with Anti-Flag, where with Anti-Flag, they're going to come at you like full forward in your face.
I'm going to punch you in the face. You know, like, if you don't do this, like, I fucking watched so much... Fucking, oh, what's his face? From fucking Anti-Flag.
Chris?
Yeah, fucking every day, like that motherfucker just always out there. Like so much content could be made from that man's voice of just shit he just fucking talking. Like, I'm just like, dude, it's so much. And like fucking Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what got me into political music as well, though. I mean, Green Day's American Idiot definitely did. And that was 2005. I was in the
Yeah,
fifth grade.
yeah,
And
yeah.
like
When I
that
came out,
album,
I was saying
huh?
when it came out, I was in fourth grade, so I'm only 1 year younger than you. So I totally understand where you're coming from with this.
Yeah, and I'm just like listening to that shit. And at the time, it didn't, resonate with me as hard as it does today. And I just kind of laugh about it, with like the lyrics in American Idiot, the song. We literally relived that for the past like 4 years. Like, don't want to be an American idiot. Like, it's
Yeah,
just fucking wild.
and like even I
And
think back to it too, because like I really didn't care much for punk rock or anything like that, and all of a sudden like American Idiot was kind of the start of it because it was something that was brand new, but it was also very very popular to the point where when with me just trying to be able to fit in with the grade school of that because I was a new kid when American Idiot came out, so I just listened to whatever the hell was popular, trying to get into that. Again, kids that listen to me, that was a very bad decision because I missed out on a lot of great music that I absolutely love now. That was a very bad decision. So,
right,
but because American Idiot was popular, I listened to it and I loved this. I love the titular track. I love that song. Don't want to be an American and just
right,
idiot and just keep going through it. But it kind of planted the seeds for what was to come with all of a sudden me getting into Anti-Flag, me getting into Rise Against, me listening a little bit more Pennywise, me listening to Against Me, like really getting into some of that stuff.
right. That's
So
literally kind of like the precursor. Like, what's crazy it started out for me is I grew up on classic rock and like hair metal and stuff, which Joe did as well. And his
same here.
mom actually worked for a local radio station that played that music, and his dad was in a
Yeah,
band
my dad and
too.
stepdads were always in. They played bass in cover bands and 80s, 70s hair metal bands and shit all their life.
And like my dad listened to classic rock. My mom listened to hair metal. She was into like Poison and like
Like the
fucking,
glam scene, yeah.
yeah, shit like that. Like
Skid
Motley
Row.
Crue, Skid Row, yup.
Oh
And
God, yeah.
so Cinderella, shit like that. And my dad was more like AC/DC, like the late 60s, 70s, early 70s type of shit. And um so that's just kind of what I grew up on. And as I got older, though, like I got into my own shit. And what's crazy is all those bands kind of led me back again to like Slipknot, which somehow led me to like The Used and My Chemical Romance and all these other bands and Green Day and Sum 41. And like it's just a wild turn. But at the time, you only had like 30 bands. Like that was it. Like you're like, okay, yeah, this is what you can find. This is what is in the store. Shit like that. Even if it was like the first album, like My Chemical Romance first album was I Brought You My Bullets, You Brought Me Your Love, and like there was trash music, but I listened to it the other day and I'm like, dude, every fucking song, like, it was like fueling a part of my childhood on the
Yeah.
bus, listening to it in my CD player, next to Eminem and ICP. But, and like take it out, whatever, put in the next CD, but like at the same time, I'm like, they don't make it like they used to. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
miss
well,
the shitty recordings that they were just like, you know what? This is great. Let's put it out. We show musicianship in this song. You know what? There's so much more emotion into those songs than what you have now, in a way. But now anymore, you have to stay relevant and you're competing with the world. I was just talking to my wife about this, and like with music now, you literally have to put out a new song every month, every couple months or so, or you lose your relevancy, regardless of how big or small you are.
yeah, and
And
it's all based on how people are consuming music on streaming services due to the fact that if you want to stay relevant on certain playlists and play that game, you constantly have
right,
to come out with new stuff. Otherwise, your stuff's going to get dropped to the bottom of the playlist and then just completely removed due to the fact that it's not new and it's been on there too long. Plus, like I've talked this with many people, and I understand the move, but I'm also don't like. But me being, these damn kids don't know what they're talking about being old. I wish it was the way it used to be. I love going through an album full on through because it tells a story. It's the way that the artist wanted you to listen to it. And then if you
Right.
buy the physical copy, if you buy a download, I mean, hell, I'll buy a download, but then all of a sudden, like, hey, I'll buy the vinyl as well. But it's like I'm
Right.
making an
That's how I
investment in
am.
that music.
I'm very much more if I want to listen to an album from front to back, I'm not going to listen to this song's cool, this song's cool, this song's cool. These artists, they wrote an entire album for me to listen to. from front to back because they've got a story. They've got some things to say.
Yeah, and
I
that's
don't like picking pieces out.
And that's how I learned, like, when it comes to, especially with with stuff, everything with streaming today, when it came to me getting into metalcore, this is the perfect example for this, because at the beginning of 2018, middle of 2018, I did not want to hear anything that really had something that had an unclean scream in there. I really didn't enjoy it at all. But then all of a sudden, like, someone told me to listen to Architects Holy Hell. I checked it out and I enjoyed it, but I didn't really, that was the only thing I really wanted to check out from that. Then someone told me to check out Motionless in White, and I checked out the first song that was on Spotify at that time, because this was January 2019, was Voices. And I'm like, this is a little different.
That's one of their later ones, yeah.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, I'm like, okay, this is not what I was expecting. Let's go into the next one that was on Spotify. And this taught me to always, don't just listen to that top song. Don't listen to it and make your judgment off of that. Go through at least, at the bare minimum, 2, but go through usually try and go through like 3 or 4 to really understand it, because the next one that came up was Eternally Yours, and I was just like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, no, Eternally Yours, hands down, slaps. Like, I listen to that shit in the car every time it comes on, and there's this part of it where they glitch the vocals, and like, it's just like, and then every single like nuance in the song, like, I hit it with my hands on the steering wheel. Like, fucking, like, if there's a snare coming up, I'm just like, it's just like a big reverse snare. I was sitting there listening, I'm just like, and like, if there's a riff, I'm just like, smack, while I'm driving. And like, my wife's like, are you autistic? And I'm like, well, yeah, obviously. And like, fucking, it's just, the same guy that did that album did all of Mod Sun's new music. Yeah. Like, it's the same guy, the same studio. Really? But no, that album is pretty solid from what I've heard. But Eternally Yours slaps.
Oh, it's
like, I like that song like better than Voices and like shit that they've released previously. I mean, some of their stuff, they got a lot of like gimmicks going on with them. Not to like point or even anything, because I do shit that they do too, like, whatever.
Have some sort of gimmick.
And like, but some of their stuff is just like, it's better without the video. Like, I don't know, it's more of a tasteful thing, I guess. Yeah, like, I can see who this would go to, but if you're not one of those people and you're like, I can't get into that band because like their visuals, listen to that band without them, and they're great.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You can't, like, I could hear like Halsey being on one of their songs
and like, fitting perfectly.
Being a banger, like, like, yeah.
Yeah, because I'll even use Ice Nine Kills as an example, because initially when it came to all the horror stuff and all the horror movies, I really just like, I was passive about them. I really didn't care.
That's
like,
how I felt too. Yeah. And now when it comes on my Spotify, like, if I just listen to it in passing and actually listen to it, and I'm like, holy fucking shit, that is clever.
Yeah, like I was gonna say the first song I ever heard from him was "Stabbing in the Dark." I'm like, oh, this is hard, this is cool, but I didn't really think anything of it. And then all of a sudden, it was like I heard A Grave Mistake. I'm like, this is different. I like this. I didn't even take a look into anything that was being done about it. But then I ended up going to see them live 2 days after Halloween. Now that is a good move, because all of a sudden, like, I saw them, and after seeing the live show, all the horror movie connections to it, and just seeing how it all played together, I went from thinking, you know what, this band, I was thinking about not even going to the show because I was super tired, but like, yeah, I'll go to the show. I went from being, don't know much about this band, to all of a sudden, I want to listen to everything this band has ever come out with, because this was fucking awesome. It was the first time ever I've stayed after a show to like get a piece of merch, which I'm actually wearing at this very moment, oddly enough. But it was just something where I was just, it was, again, it's, when it comes to listening to a band, if you feel like you kind of like them, but you're not sure if you like them right away, give them another give them more listens on their music. Watch their music videos. Maybe go and like find it, especially right now with it's still in the pandemic, but it seems like we're kind of on the back nine of it with concerts returning. Yeah. Go on YouTube and search up some live videos of it. Hell, there are bands that I've been trying to like. I don't really know about them that much, but do I like them or not? I have a whole YouTube series about that.
Have live versions of their songs that are better than the studio recordings.
I agree too.
Yeah, because the latest Evanescence record, I was listening to it and I'm like, I like it, but there just feels like there's something really missing from it. And for me personally, it was the vocal mix on Amy Lee's vocals. I thought was drawn back, so it really didn't feel that full power. But I'm like, if they amped up her vocals live, all of these tracks could be just so much more powerful. It was something that just stuck out in my mind.
A lot of songs are written like that too. A lot of songs are written more so for a live setting, that the visuals and the sound and the way that actually the snares and the booms and everything are going to hit. It'll sound different in a live setting, a lot better, a lot more meaningful than it would in just an earbud.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. Because even like I did a whole entire like album review video. I'm like, I call that out. I'm like, I wasn't a big fan of it, but if I see this live, it could be a complete game changer right then and there. Like this could be like one of their best albums ever, just based on a live performance, just seeing how that affects it. And it's just somewhere, again, and I call out to everybody on this. If you listen to music on streaming services, whether it's Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon, Pandora, whatever the heck you guys use, and someone tells you to check out a band and you're thinking about checking them out, and you go to say, I'll use Spotify example, and then you see that top song on Spotify and you click it, and if the first 10 seconds you're like, no, this ain't for me, whatever you do, don't click out of it. Let it run through. Let you understand it, and then check out 3 more songs, because then you'll know if you actually like the band sound or not. Because hell, those first 4 songs, they could be completely different styles. And the first one could be like, this doesn't necessarily hit me, but then that third one could be, maybe a softer, more melodic kind of sound, and you're just thinking,
be more your style for sure.
Yeah. Again, like what happened with me with Eternally Yours. I went from voice, I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. I'm kind of enjoying this. All of a sudden, Eternally Yours, I'm just like, Jesus fucking Christ, this is great.
Right. Yeah, Voices had like a lot of like Korn influence, I felt, because they have this guitar riff that plays throughout the song, and the guitar tone just changes 4 times, and it's the same riff playing, but it sounds cooler when they change the tone. Like it's just like, fucking. The Jonathan Davis is actually featured in one of their songs unofficially.
Necessary Evil. I fucking hate that song. I think it's one of their worst out of all.
It's my party and I'll die when I want to. And like, yeah. Somebody hear that. Like, it's just.
Because I listen to that one, I'm just like, oh no, this ain't for me. But then all of a sudden, I'm like, but I know there's a bunch of other songs that they have that I enjoy. So. Is the fact that I like some of their songs, the fact that I don't like some of their songs, going to be like, oh, I don't want to listen to this band ever? No, I've seen them live twice, and both times it was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I've seen them live on the Fearless Friends tour at this venue we used to have in Cleveland called Peabody's Down Under.
Oh man, such a sad memory.
And they tore it down though, but it was like, the perfect place.
It was so
you walk in, it smells like cheap weed and vomit, and it's just like, yep, this is home.
Just the rainwater outside. The stage had a fucking pole right in the fucking middle of it.
And fucking your shoes are sticking to the floor.
Yeah.
Everybody's coughing and sweating and yelling at each other. You watch people like propose to people, and then people break up with people, and then people just fuck people. And you go in the bathroom, there's no doors on any of the stalls, they're just filled to the brim with shit. Perfect. You see like 800 different band stickers plastered on the stall wall.
Yes.
Everything's painted black, even the toilet. And like, fucking you got that one dude just selling drugs in the corner, and like people are just like, yup, that guy. Turns out he owns the club. Like it's just wild, man. I remember playing shows there, and they're just in the office counting money. I'm just like, damn, that's a lot of money. And then like they're just like, here's $20. $15. I'm just like, fuck, this is a battle of the bands. Like, bro. Like it's just, oh man. That place is crazy though, and I could see why they might have had some issues.
But just hearing all those, like, even though it's like you're remembering all these things that like are less than perfect about a music venue, thinking about them now, the fact that we've been without concerts for over a year at this point, like I'm thinking about how much I miss that, how much I miss walking through a venue and feel like every time I try and walk through, like my shoes are consistently sticking to the floor after all the dried up beer that's on the floor. And then the consistent smell of someone smoking weed at some point during the show, no matter what show you're at. People bleeding all over the place in a mosh pit, including a couple of times by myself, and I am very proud of that fact. And it's just something that I look back and I think it's just, there's so much, like, especially with a show, hard rock, punk rock, metalcore, metal, whatever it might be, especially in the rock and metal space. Those shows, it's like the energy just gets so raw, so visceral, and people just get like so amped up. The adrenaline is flying. Mosh pits are going crazy. You get circle pits going nuts, and it looks like an absolute freaking brawl.
Yeah, dude. Every time like people would start a wall of death in this place, I'm like, okay,
There's
I like
almost
turn
not
around
enough room
and
for
we're
a
just
wall
like
of death.
scooting people, and I'm like, you're trying to like protect
People are
all the
outside
women,
of the smoking area,
because
ready
there's
to
like
run
somebody
in.
about to kill somebody, and then you're just like, okay, let's protect all the 16-year-old girls.
Yeah, they're standing up front.
Yeah, I'm like, no, don't do that. Things are about to get really bad. And like, you got just crowd killers out there, Here he comes,
Oh, yeah, the big
standing
buff dudes with the
6'5",
chainsaw.
weighing 285 pounds.
I've
and it's
gotten
like-
dropped. I've gotten dropped by those crowd killers before. I'll say this though, there was one time I was seeing We're Alive, Escape the Fate, and Falling in Reverse. Jumped into the pit right.
They played like a similar lineup at this venue when I was there, and like this was Falling in Reverse's Drugging Me As You tour. But I'm gonna let you continue.
Yeah.
So keep telling me.
I was gonna say like I jumped in the pit right at the, 2 songs in the We're Alive set because I walked in maybe like 5 minutes before the show started, and I was all the way in the back, and I'm like, okay, I gotta work my way up into the pit. Everyone knows where the hell I'm trying to go. I jump in there, and this dude, probably about the same height as me, but had to have at least 100 pounds on me. Just big freaking dude. Just blindside hits me full on. I fall flat on my back, and the wind is knocked out of me at this point. I've been in the pit for 3 freaking seconds, and this happens.
I just got it. What the fuck?
I have never been more amped up to be in the pit the rest of the night because I'm like, if this is the first hit I take, holy shit! Like my adrenaline, like any kind of like, I don't know what it is with me. It's like every time I jump in a pit, like that first moment, I'm like, I'm a little kind of nervous about this.
Yeah,
I'll tell people a point too. Just sometimes just push me in because when I take that first hit, it's over. Like my anxiety is gone, my adrenaline is up, my confidence is up, my happiness is up. I am where I need to be.
Right. Honestly, what's the craziest pit experience I ever had was during Warped Tour in 2009 during Paramore. I know it sounds absolutely insane, but there were pits, okay? And
Pits for Paramore.
yeah,
Pits for
it was
Paramore.
like Minstrel Business, and everybody's just going wild and shit. And I get elbowed in the side of my fucking head by this big ass bald dude. Like fucking this motherfucker just like throws it. And I'm just like this trying to like, doing my own thing. And then this dude just fucking demolishes my fucking head. And like I hit the ground. And then he's like, oh shit, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And then I'm like, that's what music's about, brother. I'm like fucking
That's why we're here.
I'm in my like electric blue skinny jeans, like my Vans and like like he's like picking me up and shit. This motherfucker's got like camouflage shorts on to his ankles and like whatever the fuck, maybe a Pantera shirt. I don't know. But like, dude, that was like this dude hit me harder than any time I've ever been hit ever in a pit. And like it was during Paramore, and I thought that was so ironic that that would even happen. Like they were the secret band that day. The part-time vocalist of Attack that made it into 2 music videos told me about. Okay, like the vocalist guy, he was terrible. But he somehow made it in. Yes, the guy that's like, hey, I'm Austin Carlisle's little brother. I'm a little bit chubbier, and we kind of look similar. Maybe you'll get confused, but I was in the video. Like Austin Carlisle was in no Attack videos. He wasn't even in the promos. Like I was like,
just his voice. So you'd never know that he was in Attack unless you actually like knew his voice.
And like that was just so wild because like those videos would come on MTV on like Headbangers Ball, and like you'd see it, and you're like, that's not you. Like but everybody probably thought it. And whenever they saw the band live, they came on right before Broken Side. So, they're like, oh yeah, I watched their set. Caleb was the synth player at the time. He had like hair like fucking down to his hips and shit. And fucking, I think he was 15, 16 at the time.
Yeah, he was young as hell at that point.
Yeah, that was the first year I went to Warped Tour. And I saw a lot of great bands that year. But I did stick around for Broken Side set. Yeah, I did.
I always miss Warped Tour every single year, and I'm fucking pissed about it. But then again, I've tried to make it up by like, you know what? I'm just gonna see as many of these bands as freaking possible. I had that motto starting in 2019. I was really successful in 2019, seeing as many bands as possible. 2020 took a motherfucking hit, and I'm still pissed about that because because like thinking about that pit story, it's just like, yeah, I've gotten massive pit injuries too. I was probably the most insane one I was ever was after the burial. Holy fuck.
I feel like that just sounds like fists hitting meat.
It wasn't.
I feel like it's just like.
It wasn't. I survived the whole thing up until like this. I was either the last song or second last song when I got knocked down for the first time the whole entire night, which was surprising. As I'm getting picked up, some dude gets knocked down right into me, head-to-head contact. Boom!
Yeah.
Huge cut right below my left eyebrow. And I see the blood come out, and I'm wearing what I call my cursed anti-flag shirt because the 2 times I've worn it 2 shows, I have gotten hit in the, like, right above the eye both times. Like, motherfucker! And this guy is like, I'm sorry. And I'm just saying, I literally looked at him and I said, get me the fuck out of here. I was not pissed at this guy at all. I'm like, I'm bleeding. We're in the mosh pit. This is bad. I get to the bathroom. I'm like, there's no fucking paper towel. There's only toilet paper and a stall that's got shit filled to the brim. I'm taking toilet paper, just like trying to like stop the bleeding. The guy's like, dude, are you mad? I'm like, no. But you're telling me to get the fuck out. You're telling me to get you the fuck out of there. I'm like, yeah, I was bleeding. I don't want to bleed over everybody in the pit. That's a bad idea. I'm like, thank you. I'm like, I understand. I put myself in that goddamn position.
Right. You always got to bring a first aid kit with you. That's rule number 1. You need your bandages, you need your tape, just in case something happens. Not saying it will, but just in case it does.
Once I got the blood to kind of stop, I ended up taking a huge, giant amount of toilet paper, sticking it on my eye, and then the person that met me at the show, it was a girl my friends tried to set me up with. This was unsuccessful. She saw this, and this was actually a very cool move by her. She was wearing a flannel shirt. She ripped off a huge piece, like a nice, like long piece of her flannel, so I could tie all the paper towel to my
cowboy.
Yeah,
like full cowboy style.
She was full cowboy in a fucking after the burial motionless in white show. And I took the flannel. I had the paper towel right here. I took the flannel. I tied this like long piece around my eye. I looked like a goddamn pirate, and I was so happy. And I get back to the pit, and everyone's like, "Holy shit, he returned!" Everyone's super happy. Like, you jump back in. Fuck no, this is gonna open back up. What are you gonna do? I'm sitting on the edge of the whole show. I'm pushing people back in. I'm still gonna be a part of it, but I'm not gonna be as full in as I wanted to. And I'm kind of pissed about that because that like most of the white pit wasn't as crazy as after the burials. It was larger, but it was like the energy was still there, and it was just amount of bodies. Just it wasn't people like going like full on like punch like fist to skin. It was a lot of just like people just flying into each other, which is more my style anyway. I'm like, oh man, I miss that.
Yeah, my guitarist, our previous guitarist Jacob, when we saw Motionless in White during their pit, there was actually this older gentleman in the crowd that was like moshing who looked just like his dad. And he hit him too. We're like, Jacob, your dad just hit you, dude. And like he's like, what's happening? And we pushed him in there, and this dude just keeps hitting him. It was this guy. It was uncanny how much he looked like his father. And like I'm like, dude, always taking out all that Call of Duty aggression on you, man. Fucking like, because like we would have band practice at his house, and his dad was the same man that pinned me to the stage when I got into this fight earlier at that other show.
Oh, okay.
And so he kind of drove us places. We'd pack a bunch of shit up in his truck. He was just kind of like band dad, and fucking we'd all hang out at their place after the show, get pizza, smoke, drink, whatever. And fucking like, yeah, this dude just looked so much like his father. I'm like, dude, why is your dad here? And he's like, why? What do you mean? Why is my dad here? My dad's not here. He's at home. Like, we just drove here. My dad is not with us. And I'm like, okay. And then he's like, I'm like, dude, no, your dad's right there. And like me and my girlfriend and her friend were like, dude, Jacob, your dad's here. And he's like, dude, that's not my dad. And then like we pushed him into the pit. And he's like, his dad's just wailing on him. He's like, Dad, stop. I'm your son. Why did you hit me? Oh man, it was a great time though. Like there was Chris Motionless's brother, who looks just like him, but they're not twins, runs the sound. I don't know if he still does, but he ran the sound for them at that show anyway. Fucking that confused the hell out of me too, because like before the show you'll see members walking around and shit, and like I saw his brother, And I'm like, I thought it was Chris Motionless. I'm like, oh, hey. I'm like, yo, man, be sure to like set some bullshit or whatever. You know, I'm like, whatever, like 16 or some shit at the time, 17. Like the Creatures just came out. And he's like, what? And I'm like, oh, wait, that's not you. You do have a different face a little bit. And then I'm like, are you guys like twins or something? He's like, no. And I'm just like, okay, this is awkward. My bad. It's dark in here. I'm having anxiety because there's a lot of people in this room, and now I feel like an idiot. And just all this other bullshit started coming over me. Another weird event though at this venue is I got in to see Icy Stars, Ask Alexandria, and Attack on the Picnic Party Tour. And I have a dollar bill signed by all three of those bands at that event still to this day. And this was like when Attack was still a thing, but they're a thing now, but it's not the same. Johnny Frank was still in the band. And I was friends with Icy Star's manager at the time. I'm pretty sure he's still their manager. And I'm pretty sure if I hit him up today, he'd be like, what's up? But I hit him up before the show and I'm like, yo, you guys are Icy Stars playing and shit. You think you like get me guest listed? He's like, just show up. And I'm like, okay. And then he's just like, carry some merch in with us. And then I'm like, okay, but that doesn't guest list me. He's like, you don't need it. And I'm like, oh. He's like, just carrying the merch. At that time, Devin Oliver was like 15. And then this dude's like getting drinks at the bar. And he's like 15 years old. And like, they're all super young. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening? But I ended up hanging out with Icy Stars that night. And it was pretty cool. I was wearing like white skinny jeans because it was the sign of the times. Oh, like fucking, it was just crazy. And like seeing Ask Alexandria for the first time, I actually sat on my drummer's shoulders. He was 6'5", and this is still worth the wait times. And fucking during Ask Alexandria's set, my back hurt so bad that night. But they were really good. Everybody's really good. And I think Danny actually wasn't even 18 at that time either. And like, that's when I realized that I like was like, I'm like, okay, this is when you get into the scene. And it was kind of like a little bit of my philosophy. Like once you run out of time, you're kind of spent. But like at that time, like people were swooping up younger bands that had potential. They kind of exploited, I feel, as a lot of those bands are no longer on certain labels anymore. But, at the same time, I do have that fucking dollar bill that everybody signed. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I have it.
You're going to keep it forever, and then all of a sudden you're going to reference it at some point whenever you get a chance to talk to those guys. Be like, hey, remember when you signed this motherfucking dollar bill with all these other bands?
Right.
Yeah,
no,
I still have it.
Signed it right on George Washington's face. I had nothing else for them to sign. And like Caleb Shomo signed a pack of my friend's cigarettes, and because that's all he had on him. And then he signed my other friend's phone or whatever. But I got like Johnny Frank, Caleb Shomo, John Hidalgo, Andrew Whitting, the other Andrew.
Wetzel.
Andrew Wetzel. And then I got all the Ben Bruce actually caught me when we were walking out of the venue because my shoelaces were always fucking out and I didn't take care of myself properly. And I tripped over them and he caught me. This is way after the show. We hung out because I was friends with their man, whatever. And like we were helping carry merch back for Icy Stars and all that. And everybody's packing up. And he caught me. And he's like, oh, Matt, you almost fell. And then I'm like, I sure did. And like, I pulled out my shoestring and gave it to him. And then he was like, oh, what's this for? And then I'm like, I don't fucking know, dude. It's like 2 a.m. Like, I'm like 15 years old, dude. Like, I don't know what the fuck is happening. He's like, I'm going to keep this. And then I'm like, awesome. Like, fucking dumb. Like, so much crazy shit happens when you're young and you just don't even realize it. And now that I'm saying it later, I'm like, why the fuck did I do that?
Yeah, but it's all great stories that you have. I mean, like I'll put it this way, when live shows return, I'm hoping to like get back some of those crazy stories because of all the bands I've had on the podcast, of all the bands I want to see when it comes to the podcast as well, because I feel like, especially looking at the time, we've done 2 hours of this shit already. It doesn't feel like 2 hours, but it's been fun as all hell. But I always like to close it out kind of similar to this. I always put this at the end, but I'm going to put it in at this moment before we do the whole entire, closing part of it. Because usually when it comes to the podcast, I want to see every band that I'm able to have on the podcast. I enjoy talking to them so much. And it's like, well, I don't want to just be like, oh, hey, I saw you live and that's it kind of thing. Like, I love the fact that you guys are taking the time to talk to me today. And I want to be your show, but also want to meet you guys face to face and be like, hey guys, what's up? How's it going?
Right.
And with how many different bands I've been able to do this with, I kind of have this little thing that I call the First Rounds on Me Club, which basically is self-explanatory. First, I get to see you guys live. It's not an if, it's a when. First rounds on me. I know a couple of bands that don't drink, know a couple artists that don't drink, and that is also why I owe all of Breaking Benjamin pizza when they come to Milwaukee next.
I love Breaking Benjamin. I don't care.
And I'm like, and I'm like, I'm okay with it. Hell, if all of a sudden it's like, okay, they're here in Milwaukee, they're playing at the Rave, and all of a sudden it's like 6 p.m., and all of a sudden there's some random guy that just comes in wearing a hat backwards, wearing some sort of like probably Rise Against t-shirt at the time, has 3 pizzas that says these are for Breaking Benjamin, and all of a sudden Keith Wallen comes out and he's like, oh, I know that guy because that's the guy I interviewed. All of a sudden, boom. All of a sudden, yeah, I remember it because he's the guy that promised me pizza in Milwaukee, and he's bringing me pizza in Milwaukee. And all of a sudden what happens? Oh, I get to go back. I get to hang out with the guys. I get to eat pizza with them. And then... Right. I probably already have a ticket to the show anyway because I probably bought one way in advance because that's usually what I do anyway. So it's like, well, where you want to be on the show? You want to be like side stage, backstage? I'm like, no, I'm going to be in the fucking middle because that's where I belong.
Show, right?
So when I get to see you guys for the first time, 2 things. 1, first round's on me. 2, please start an insanely crazy pit. And if you guys can make me bleed and potentially actually send me to the hospital for the first time, that would be awesome.
I got
maybe not in my wallet, but
buying them tickets and having them do that.
Well, I mean, can they do it in the pit though? Not just like all of a sudden I walk in and just have me get the shit beat out of me. I'd rather do it. It's like that would be too much fun. Let's actually make it worthwhile. Just go.
Right.
And as I close this out, before I go on the final thing, I want to give everyone a little overall take on Obey Decay because I always like to kind of just do a full-on run through the song, but I always do a little overall to kind of conclude it. So for everyone listening, when it comes to Obey Decay, overall, this was something interesting in my opinion. At just over 2 minutes, the song really doesn't let you breathe. Holy shit, now the topic makes even more sense.
I see what you did there.
The consistent focus on like this bursting metalcore at varying paces I thought was pretty cool. However, it was this electronic piece that like overlayered to really create this overall tone for the song. It really kept the song going further and further. This song is literally a powder keg ready to explode. So at just over 2 minutes, this thing is just like, especially live, this thing is just a crazy pit inducer that I just want to get, into and, potentially, knock some people around, maybe give some concussions. If I get a concussion, it'll be my 8th one ever. So, we're just going to keep up in that number. Trying to get to number 14.
Only way to go but up.
Only way to go but up. So as we close up this podcast, I would like to give you guys a chance to say, give you guys a chance to say some last words, whatever you want to say, remarks, whatever the heck you feel like going for, plug in whatever. So go for it.
All right. Obey Decay comes out April 9th. It'll be on all streaming platforms. The music video will be premiering in a lot of places. You will see it on Beheading the Traitor, Space Untravel, I believe the Circle Pit, and our own YouTube channel.
You'll see it.
Yeah, we're gonna make sure that you see it. We're taking a completely different approach. This is a little unorthodox, and I don't care. You're probably it's gonna be everywhere. By the time that you hear and see this, it will already be there. And you will be able to find it at these outlets. And you can also head to worththewaitmusic.com to find out everything else going on with us. You'll be able to buy merch, listen to music, and see our video for Obey Decay, and read up a little bit up on us, and see photos and other things and other different pieces of press. And don't get us confused with that weird voice on the weird band on the voice band. I don't know what they do.
It was just trio females.
Well, we're a duo, so we're a duo males. What's better than trio females? Whatever. Anyway, so check it out. I promise that you will not be disappointed in this release.
No, I mean you described it perfect with like not being able to breathe for those 2 minutes, and that's a good way to put it. I feel it's like it's one full big breath.
And there's actually a part in the song that it might. Okay. Well, by the time that they hear this
you'll hear
song,
it. You'll hear it.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll hear it.
Check out the fucking song. All right, it's sick. It's my favorite so far, and we put a lot into it in what we did. There's a lot of emotion. It's definitely fueled, and I think that you should definitely take a listen if you're into heavy music at all. It definitely has some circle pit vibes in it. The first, say within the first 16 bars. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just thank you everybody for your continued support and everything. This song is really something special for us, and it's like you said, we put a lot of emotion into it, but it came out very easily and very naturally.
Also, you can find us anywhere on our socials aside from our website, worththewaitmusic.com, at linktr.ee/WTW official. All of our handles are WTW official aside from Twitter. That's Worth the Wait US. You can find us anywhere with that. All likes, comments, views, subs are definitely supported, and we love you for that. Also find us on Twitch, where you'll find us streaming here and there on various games at twitch.tv/WTW official. We love you guys. Thank you for joining us in this amazing podcast with Kevin here.
It's been 2 hours.
No,
we talked about a lot of stuff.
It's been great hanging with you guys. Thank you.
And now it is time for me to close this out. And I'll close out with my classic 3 things. So number 1, you guys know exactly where I'm going with this for the listeners. And, well, Dakota, Joe, you're going to find out where I'm going with this now. First thing is, you guys just told us a whole bunch of stuff, where to find you guys, where to stream your music, where to listen to it, where to watch the new video for Obey Decay, everything about it. Even find the link tree for it. And I know what people are thinking when it comes to this. Man, it's a lot of stuff. Can't we just have it in like one convenient place just to click on a link and just take us there? And I'll tell you this, I got you guys covered. So what I'm doing is, do it for everybody, doing it for these guys, of course. If you look in the description of the podcast, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeart Radio, you're going to see this thing that says, Find Worth the Wait online. I'm just going to have all the links there for you guys. So it's one click, one-stop shop, so you can like, follow, share, subscribe, stream, whatever the hell they have. It's all going to be there for you guys. Number 2, well, I already said it. You guys are part of the club now. When I get to see you guys play for the first time, first round's on me.
First round's on him. Remember that.
Remember that. And as I like to close with this podcast, I cannot in all good conscience end this with a goodbye due to the fact that you are a part of the First Rounds on Me Club. So that guarantees I'll get to see you guys again. I love talking music with you guys, all these crazy stories. So I'd love to have you on the podcast at some point in the future again. And that means I can't end this with a goodbye ever. I have to end it with, see you later.
See you later, man.
See you next time, my friend.
Well, folks, that was my interview with Dakota and Joe from the band Worth the Wait out of Akron, Ohio. Please be sure to check out their latest song, Obey Decay. It is out everywhere at this given moment. Everything you know about the band, everything you know to find them is in the link in the description below. All the links in the description below, actually. And yeah, this one was fun as all hell. It did not feel like that 2 hours. I mean, we were just having fun, just talking, having a good time, just shooting the shit, sharing a bunch of stories that'll make you laugh every single day. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. I know we didn't talk about Obey Decay as much as we probably should have, but then again, the conversation wasn't flowing that way. We were having a great time regardless. Plus, whenever something wacky happens in the podcast, like a phone dying, we always have fun with it. On that note, that's going to be free today, guys. Thank you for watching, listening to the Chord Progression Podcast by MC Rocks, Rock and Metal Thrive. My name is Kevin, and you guys know how I end every single one. That's with the big, healthy, and hearty. See ya. Yeah.